this Red played a big part in a big win. Reggie Sanders, bases loaded in the 7th, clearing the bases with a triple, and the Padres would go on to win it. And just for good measure, Reggie would make it a 4-run play for San Diego in that big win here last night. Bob Carpenter, Rick Sutcliffe, welcome to Qualcomm Stadium. Houston loses Jose Lima and company to Todd Ritchie of the Pirates earlier tonight. Only 2 games in the loss column now are the Reds behind.
And that's all important because everybody's going to play 162 games before it's over with. But it's been a long year for the Cincinnati Red bullpen. Once again, last night, the starting pitcher, only 5 innings. That means 2 or 3 guys have to come into the ballgame. Look at their ERA in the month of September. Are they starting to wear down? If so, it could not happen at a worse time for Cincinnati.
10 days left in the season. They are struggling to keep the gas tank at least partially full. Now here in San Diego, the tank's always full offensively. Tony Gwynn embarking on another hitting streak. This one, 16 ball games so far. You think he's been on a hitting streak since '84 when you faced him in the NLCS?
Yeah, I don't think he'd have 3,000 hits right now if it weren't for me either.
Well, another guy who's been around seemingly that long, Jack McKeon, a variety of different ball clubs, one of the older guys in the dugout in the game. He's done a wonderful job this year with this young Cincinnati ball club. Guys like Mike Cameron leading off of our Nextel lineup. And, of course, they're hitting home runs like crazy, this club. Then Barry Larkin and Sean Casey, Greg Vaughn, Dimitri Young, Eddie Taubensee, Aaron Boone, Pokey Reese, and tonight's starting pitcher, Ron Vallone. And for the Padres, right-hander all-star Andy Ashby on the mound.
All-star for the 2nd year in a row, a 17-game winner last year. Ashby going for his 15th of the year tonight.
Andy Ashby, 14-9 on the year. And the tall, slender right-hander is ready for Mike Cameron, one of the outstanding young players on the Cincinnati club, and a fastball inside. Start the ball game. Mike Cameron with an on-base average of .352. And a pop-up to the right side. Looks like Cameron will be 0 for his last 14. Hasn't started since the weekend, and that pop-up controlled by Kilvio Veras for the first out. Padres in the bottom 4 in the league defensively, but a couple of guys at the corners are red hot. Phil Nevin has not made an error in 30 games, and across from him, Wally Joyner has a 62-game errorless streak going. Nevin has earned himself a big contract because of his offense. RBI total up to 83 with 24 home runs. And here's Barry Larkin. Barry Larkin with the foul ball just outside third, says Hunter Wendelstedt. Crew chief Steve Ripley working the plate tonight. Wendelstedt's at third, Jerry Meals at second, and veteran Mike Winters at first base.
Barry Larkin last night, for just the 4th time in his outstanding career, struck out 3 times. Matt Clement, the starting pitcher for the San Diego Padres, was just overpowering through the first 7 innings.
Well, we saw how good he was here last week pitching against Atlanta. Padres took 2 out of 3 in that series. So this is a ball club that can have a say in the playoff pursuit, especially if they have a lead late in the ball game with a guy like Trevor Hoffman in the bullpen. A liner to center. Right there is Ruben Rivera. 2 down. Well, lately against this Cincinnati ball club, pitchers concerned enough about just keeping the ball in the park. They are threatening their all-time monthly record. Sean Casey's been in the middle of it all with 24 home runs. And he's 4th in the league at .334 despite a horrendous slump from July 24th to August 24th when he hit .183. But when you start at .374, I guess that's a pretty good starting point if you're going to go into a tailspin for a while.
For most people, there's only one way to go when your average is that high. Give this kid a lot of credit, though. People thought the at-bats were starting to catch up with him. They thought he would continue to go in that direction, but he has turned it on.
And our graphic indicates the power numbers down as well as the average. He's been one of the National League's top fielding first basemen all year long. They're nearing 200 home runs. Only the Rockies and the Diamondbacks have hit more home runs than this powerful Cincinnati team. In contrast, San Diego is second last in the league to only the light-hitting Florida Marlins. 2 balls and a strike.
I don't think it's just a coincidence that Sean Casey started to get better pitches to hit as Greg Vaughn got hot. Vaughn hitting behind him with 12 home runs in the month of September. This pitch right here will be a good indication as to what Andy Ashby's game plan is. Is he going to challenge Sean Casey because of respect for Greg Vaughn? If he's got that for a game plan, it'll be a fastball here. If not, it'll be something off speed.
Vaughn waiting, and it's low and away. Casey draws the 2-out walk. And Greg Vaughn will be the batter here in the top of the first inning. Bruce Bochy's Padres 8 games under 500, out of the race at 19.5 up. They are a pretty strong ball club here at Qualcomm Stadium. They're 12 over the 500 mark as they played their last home game of the year here tonight. Nice hand by the folks who remember what Greg Vaughn did here last year. 50 homers, a San Diego record, 10 more than Ken Caminiti's previous mark of 40 in 1996. And a busted bat. Nobody bothered to chase that little pop fly that was about 50 feet landing from home plate. Monday night. When he gets extension, Rick Sutcliffe, maybe only McGuire hits the ball harder.
He provided a lot of souvenirs for the Padre fans out there in left center field over the course of the season last year. Did it again on Monday night. That game was a blowout. Pardon me, Bob.
Yeah, that was a 12-1 verdict.
And you would have thought that the Reds would have come out last night with some momentum going into the second game of the series, but young Matt Clement just took it away from him.
Here's the 0-1. And the fastball's up and in. That evens the count. Vaughn, the first Cincinnati player ever with 40 homers, 100 RBIs, and as many as 15 stolen bases in a season. Ashby keeping the ball in on him, and I guess that's a good thing to do after we saw him reach out and hit that homer Monday night.
He likes to extend, but when I think about him doing anything in Cincinnati Reds franchise history that's a first offensively, that's amazing. I mean, think about the great players they've had over the years. The Big Red Machine.
Yeah, their previous standards for power hitter, George Foster, a 50 home run season.
Pretty good assortment of movement right here. Ashby stayed in on him for the first strike and first 3 pitches of the at bat. Now he goes with a little cut fastball on the outer half. Maybe now a little bit better breaking ball somewhere down.
He does. Vaughn way over the top of it. And Andy Ashby pitches around the 2-out walk. Reds strand a runner. That's how the ball game gets underway. And the Padres go to work against Ron Vallone with Tony Gwynn coming up. Padres coming up now. A ball club last in the league in hitting. Last in the major leagues, in fact. Bottom 3 in offense despite the presence of the future Hall of Famer 3,000 hit man Tony Gwynn. The Nextel lineup, Gilvio Veras ahead of Tony, and then Reggie Sanders behind him. Phil Nevin having a bang-up year. He's on an RBI tear. He now has 83 on the year. Wally Joyner, Ruben Rivera. They don't know what to expect from him day to day, but he's got that spectacular streak in him. Ben Davis, Damian Jackson at short, who can really fly. Andy Ashby, the pitcher.
We normally talk about the starting pitcher at this point. Ron Vallone on the mound for the Cincinnati Reds. I've got to talk about their pitching coach, Don Gullett, and what he has done. Jack McKeon says this guy doesn't really get anybody that is not a project. Ron Vallone could not throw strikes. He can throw strikes now, and because of it, he's gotten into the rotation. Back in 1995, it was Pete Schurig that Don Gullett got a hold of. He only finished second in the Cy Young Award. Jeff Brantley, Jeff Shaw, Pete Harnisch. Don Gullett doing a tremendous job for Cincinnati.
Gilvio Veras leads off and takes a fastball up and away. On base mark of 368. That's the most important stat for him. Veras on the year scoring 89 runs Only Reggie Sanders anywhere near that. But this is a San Diego team that has scored about 150 runs less than Cincinnati has. Only the Expos and the Marlins have crossed home plate less. 1-1 from Vallone. Hard-throwing left-hander. He's always had a great arm. He's been involved in some big-time trades. Selected by Seattle in the first round of the June '92 draft. Went to San Diego in the Andy Benes deal back in '95. To Milwaukee in the Greg Vaughn deal in '96. And then to Cleveland with the likes of Ben McDonald in exchange for Marquise Grissom. So he's been traded for some fairly famous people. The Reds are in the top 5 in the league defensively. Pokey Reese has been outstanding. He was drafted as a shortstop. Mr. Larkin resides there. Pokey's only made 6 errors all year. Even when he's slumping, they want to have him in there defensively. Over but low, 2-2.
Jack McKeon said not only is Pokey Reese the best second baseman in the National League, but if he were to play shortstop, he would be the best shortstop if he played third. The same situation. He is that good defensively in Jack McKeon's eyes.
Tony Gwynn on deck, and a 2-2 to kill Vioveris. Change up, nasty hop off of Aaron Boone. And here in his home ballpark, they'll probably give Veras a hit. That ball was really stung, and it came up on Aaron Boone.
You got to give Aaron Boone some credit right here. He could have easily Olayed this ball right here. We see a lot of infielders. They're going to get out of the way of that. Step off to the side. The youngster right there played it just like his dad did. A lot of pitches in the dirt, off the chest, in hopes that he could knock it down and throw him out. Not able to do it that time.
3,055 hits. They're updating the numbers on a daily basis here. A 16-game hitting streak. He's batting 387 over that time. Tony batting 332. He does not appear among the league leaders in batting because he does not have enough at bats with all the time he's missed. A couple of different stints on the DL. Veras good speed, but he doesn't have that great of a percentage. 27 steals. He's been caught 15 times.
Really a walk down memory lane when you look at all of the banners of the guys that have collected 3,000 hits in their career. There's a former great Padre, Dave Winfield,
who happens to be at the ballpark tonight. And an easy fly ball for Greg Vaughn as Tony went the other way and flied out.
I think the neatest part about the pictures is that they actually took pictures from the players at the time that they played. You see that look in Ty Cobb's eye. You just know how mean he was. Pete Rose with that short haircut, doing anything he could do to win. Wade Boggs, Lou Brock.
Rod Carew with the old Minnesota hat on that had TC for Twin Cities. There's the nastiest player who's ever put on a big league uniform. When I think about Ty Cobb, the first thing I think about is base hits. The second thing, sliding into a base with spikes high. Over 4,000 hits. He was the only one till Pete Rose came along. Reggie Sanders. There were some folks who saw him smiling as he was wheeling around the bases here last night, hurting his ex-team.
Well, all they talked about coming into the series was what a great trade it was for Cincinnati when they got Greg Vaughn. His power numbers jumping out, the Reds being in contention. Reggie Sanders himself has put up a pretty solid year. 290, 25 home runs.
He got jammed, and it's up the middle for a base hit. Veras will stop at second. You've got to be strong to take a pitch like that and get it through the infield. And you know, the big question about him, Rick, has always been his number of games played. Sanders 124, including tonight.
San Diego's pretty happy with that number. They'd like to see him play more because when he is in the lineup, he's something special. But the location of that fastball right there was a location that Reggie Sanders could not handle in the past. Up and in, gave him fits. He's relaxed his back arm, he's relaxed his shoulders, and he's able to make more constant contact now than he was before. Reason for such a high average.
And the emergence of Phil Nevin here in San Diego, former #1 draft choice. Just got himself a new 2-year contract with an option for 2002. Over $5 million in that deal. Padres got him for Andy Sheets. They actually acquired him as a third catcher. He's now their everyday third baseman after the failure of George Arias to produce.
It was right after the Padres announced they were going to send George Arias back to AAA that Phil Nevin went to Bruce Bochy. He says, I hear these rumors you're going to make a trade with Seattle for Russ Davis. Why can't I have an opportunity to play? Bochy said the look in Nevin's eyes convinced him to forget about that trade for a week and take a look at Nevin. Nevin said, I'm going to run into 25 home runs and I won't make 40 errors a year.
Close, safe at second. Jerry Meals, the umpire, right there to watch the tag of Pokey Reese.
That's why they say Pokey's going to win the Gold Glove this year. Not only does he make all the plays out there, but he pays a lot of attention to guys who possibly might steal third base. Ron Vallone has 6 pickoffs this year. 4 of them have come at second base.
A lot of left-handers are very good at going to first, but Rick, it's a totally different ball game going right behind you. 1 ball, no strike, and that fastball's in there. What makes him so good picking runners off at second?
Well, he's got real quick feet and he's got an accurate short throw. A lot of guys have that long arm as they do when they go to home plate when they make the throw to first or second. You can't do that. That takes too much time. It's supposed to be that quick little dart throw that just comes right from your chest.
Gilby O'Bearis, Reggie Sanders 90 feet behind him. He's got a huge lead at first. Against a right-handed pull hitter, Sean Casey is probably 25 feet off the line. On any ball into the corner or a gap, San Diego will score 2 runs because of the huge jump and the good speed of Reggie Sanders. 2-1 pitch. Inside, he's a pitch away from loading the bases. Ron Vallone prior to this season had never started a game in the major leagues. Think of the 162 game season. That's how many major league appearances he had before Jack McKeon made him a starter. And again, another one of those arms getting a little heavy in September. 3-1 pitch. Pretty good Kenny up on that fastball, and that fills the count. 2 of the better running teams in the National League here. We'll see if Jack does something with the runners on a 3-2 count.
For me, that fastball right there is all you need to know about. Does he have a major league fastball or not? Forget about radar. Forget about anything. The velocity is not important there. When you can throw a fastball in the strike zone by a good hitter, you've got a major league fastball regardless of what the radar gun says.
3-2. Vallone had in mind the fact that Ferris might be inching further away.
A couple of things can happen on those big league fastballs. As with Trevor Hoffman, it could be deception. His fastball is just hard to pick up. As with Matt Clement or Andy Ashby, it could be that last little late bit of movement. That's the same thing with Ron Vallone. A lot of movement to both his 4-seam and 2-seam fastball.
Padres lead the major leagues in steals with 163. Runners are going. It's ball 4 and the bases are loaded. On the heels of a Houston loss, the last thing the Reds need to do here in San Diego is go out and give 2 or 3 runs up in the first inning. Bases loaded, 1 out for Wally Joyner. Not an easy matchup, though, for Wally here.
Wally Joyner simply has not been at 100% all year. He's as close to it right now as he's been. Unfortunately, we're almost out of baseball games. In this situation last year, he was second in the major leagues with runners in scoring position, a .412 average.
Bouncer up the middle. Coming home, and a good play by Vallone to get the force out. That ball, had it gone through to Larkin, might have been a double play, but you can't fault the pitcher for trying to make the play himself.
Well, I thought it was a bad play to begin with, and then a terrific play after that. If he fields it cleanly, he's got a double play home to first. Wally Joyner, not one of the quicker guys in the league. If he lets it go, Larkin and Pokey Reese will turn it. Look at the ball. It's going to be right to Larkin. Larkin's got to be going, let it go. Oh, my goodness. But then he has the presence of mind to realize the double play is not in order. I've got to get the lead guy, and he does that. Taubensee in perfect position. Look at him stretching out there from home plate as a first baseman would do on a throw from an infielder.
Bases loaded, 2 outs. Ruben Rivera hitting the heaviest 198 on the planet. He's been unable to hit for any kind of average this year, but he can explode on you at any time. Power numbers not bad. His slugging percentage more than twice his batting average. And Valone goes 2-0.
Over the weekend, Ruben Rivera just destroyed the San Francisco Giant pitching staff. He's hit over 300 all year against that ball club, something he's not done against anybody else this year. And by the Padres winning 2 out of those 3 games, it seems like that was the end of the San Francisco Giants season.
Yeah, Giants hosting the Dodgers, or at least they're in LA tonight. Well, here's an example. Look at him go down and get that pitch.
There's 2 reasons that he plays every day with an average under 200. One, he can hit things like that very few people can do. That ball wasn't 15 feet high at any point in time and yet got out of the ballpark. Second of all, most importantly, he plays defense every night.
That'll even the count. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Ron Valone always has the strikeout capability. Andy Ashby walked a man in the top of the first, struck out Greg Vaughn. Now he's hoping to have a run or 2 to work with the next time he goes out there. Bases loaded, 2 outs, and a 2-2 count. Rivera 133 strikeouts already this year. More than 1 every 3 at-bats. And there's another. Strikeout pitcher, strikeout hitter, and the combination works for Cincinnati. Padres get 2 hits and a walk, and they strand 3 in the first inning. Since last year's World Series. But they still have Tony Gwynn, they still have Trevor Hoffman, and a nucleus that might make them a factor again in the next couple of years in the National League West. Right now they're trying to spoil things for their former divisional rival. The Reds were in the West for a lot of years. Here's Dmitri Young, outstanding switch hitter who hacks pretty well from both sides. 326 left-handed, 306 overall, and a 5-game hitting streak with 8 base hits during that time. That one tight, and it got him on the way by.
The outfield situation with the Cincinnati Reds just a little bit crowded. Michael Tucker in the lineup last night. He's not there tonight. Mike Cameron's leading off. Cut fastball. Young was looking for something else, not able to get out of the way of it. Valone getting out of that bases loaded 1-out jam. A big lift for this Cincinnati ball club. They know they can gain some ground on the Houston Astros, but they've got to win.
Here's Eddie Taubensee. That ball off the glove of Ben Davis, who never came up out of his crouch. A sailing fastball. From what I've seen this year, almost everything gets called a wild pitch these days, but that should be a pass ball.
I totally agree. That's a pass ball right there. The movement of Andy Ashby's fastball has been the key to his success as a pitcher. It makes it a little bit more difficult to catch, but that's a ball Ben Davis should have been able to handle.
Now Taubensee wants to pull it if he can. He goes left center for an RBI single. Easily scoring is Dmitri Young, and Taubensee goes for another, and he's got a double to put Cincinnati on top. So Valone gets out of the jam, and the Reds immediately answer with a run in the top of the second.
Taubensee starting off the game tonight just like he did last night in the second inning with a base hit right back up the middle. This time he picks up an RBI. Last night he was 3 for 3 to start the game. He's having a terrific series here in San Diego, and it seems like everybody else getting a little bit tired. Not Ed Taubensee.
His 80th RBI. Here's Aaron Boone. He's looking to move the runner over. Pretty good drag bunt. Ashby hurries, and a tough play by Veras to get the out. It'll go 1-4 in the sacrifice.
Last night, Aaron Boone was hitting 8th in the lineup. You're not going to sacrifice the runner to third when you've got the pitcher behind you, but Pokey Reese getting shuffled around in Jack McKeon's lineup. He was a leadoff hitter last night. He did pick up a base hit and 4 at-bats, but McKeon selected to go with Mike Cameron tonight, move Pokey down to the A spot. Chance for an RBI and the lead for Cincinnati here.
Well, we talked about Pokey's good defense. His batting average at 281. Not the greatest on base average. It's only at 320. And there's Ron Oster. He's worked with Pokey Reese at second base. Oster was one Cincinnati player who could really turn the double play, and Pokey has benefited from his teachings.
Oster can also relay to Pokey Reese what it's like to come up through the minor leagues as a shortstop, and a terrific one was Ron Oster. But when he got to the big leagues, a guy named David Concepcion was there waiting on him. He made the adjustment to second. That's what Pokey needs to do.
Here's the 0-1. Pokey gets jammed. Contact play. They've got the runner hung up. Nevin runs him into Ben Davis for the second out. Five-2 on the fielder's choice. Coming up after our ball game tonight, Stuart Scott and Rich Eisen. They are busy guys tonight. The showdown of the Mets and the Braves in Atlanta. And Chipper is, well, he looks like he wants to be the MVP right now. Jamal Anderson fires back at Dan Reeves after some of those post-injury comments made by the head coach. Padres phenom Sean Burroughs, pretty good-looking young third baseman, on Peter Gammon's Diamond Notes later tonight on SportsCenter. Then what do they do with Phil Nevin?
Well, Burroughs is a couple of years away. He just finished the season this year with the high A team for San Diego, the Rancho Cucamonga team, but he was on base in his last 59 consecutive games.
Wow. This is the pitcher Vallone. He was in the American League until this year, so his major league batting mark 3 for 39. And he chops one on a pitch away. Ashby bouncing off the mound. High throw off the glove of Joyner. And the lead runner, Pokey Reese, they're going to send him home. Here he comes. He's safe. He was on first base when that play began. And it'll be an error on Andy Ashby. 2-0 Cincinnati.
Ashby had all the time in the world right here. Once he made the play and he had the ball in his hands, you've got plenty of time to take as many crow hops as you need to make that throw. Wally Joyner has told everybody on the infield, when you're off balance or you got a difficult throw, if you think low, I can help you. He did not. Well, we talked about Ron Oster helping Pokey Reese make the conversion to second base. He just helped him score right there. Pokey hustling all the way. Oster says, I'll take a chance. And it provides another run for Cincinnati.
Top of the order, Cameron. So an ugly inning for the Padres. Andy Ashby hit the leadoff man, Dimitri Young. Ben Davis on a fastball, a pass ball. Taubman sees RBI double, a sacrifice, a fielder's choice, and now a damaging 2-out error. Fastball right down the middle to Cameron, who popped up to the second baseman, Veras, his first time up. So Cincinnati gets that run back that they lost at home plate on the contact play. And a breaking ball hangs up and in, ball 2. Mike Cameron, last game he started before tonight was Sunday at Pittsburgh. He's 0 for his last 14. Jack McKeon trying to jump start him at the top of the lineup tonight. Okie did the job in the number 8 hole. There's a fastball to the outer half, 2-2.
Cameron's a guy you can't help being excited about his potential. He's a 5-tool type player, but the one knock against him is too many strikeouts. 136 this year, only 137 games, and he just took that fastball right down the middle.
Base hit left field. Stopping at second is Ron Vallone. It's only the second hit of the inning and of the game for the Reds. Mike Cameron led them in August in homers with 5. That wouldn't be enough to lead them for a week the way they're swinging in September.
They really have put together a pretty good streak. They hit over 30 home runs in May, June, July, and August, and they had winning records during those months. It was during the month of April, only 25 home runs and a losing record. So the key to success for Cincinnati is to go deep.
Barry Larkin once went a career high 72 games without hitting a home run. Then he answered with 3 over an 8-game span. Greg Vaughn went crazy earlier this month. So did Dimitri Young, Eddie Taubensee, and Aaron Boone. 5 guys in this lineup hitting homers, and Vaughn had a 3 home run game at Wrigley Field. First time in his career he had ever done that.
Barry Larkin said over the winter when Greg Vaughn was acquired, he goes, he's really the one guy that we needed. A lot of people are going to thrive around him because if anybody gets pitched around, it's going to be Greg Vaughn. Guy hits 50 home runs. He brings a lot of respect with him, as does that manager right there, Jack McKeon.
Well, Greg Vaughn has also helped change the attitude of this ball club. And San Diego guys tell me last year he was the kind of guy who could put you on his shoulders, carry you for a week or two.
He'll flat get in your face, too.
That's
guys
right.
Come in, said they couldn't play on a given day. He says, what do you mean you can't play? Go in there and tell the manager you're all right. And they'd do it.
Now Ashby falls behind 2-0. Long second inning for Ashby, facing his 7th batter. Larkin hit the ball hard first time up and lined out to center. And a chopper to third, stays fair, and right at the bag, Nevin with the out. 2 runs, 1 unearned run, and a 2-0 lead for Cincinnati. Wednesday Night Baseball, bottom of the second here in San Diego. Padres down by a couple now, after 2 unearned runs by the Reds in the top of this inning. Ben Davis will lead off, then Damian Jackson, Andy Ashby. San Diego Ball Club looking to the future. Although I have seen a few members of their organization sporting brand new World Series rings today. They are still the defending champions of the National League, lest we forget. There's Ben Davis, the switch hitting catcher. You know, and you talked about this earlier, Rick, regarding the Cincinnati bullpen. Young guys like Ben Davis, their first year at the big league level, they're finding it difficult as well to keep it going the entire 6 months. He's batted only 190 or so for the last month after tearing it up early.
Well, you think about a lot of these guys coming out of high school or college, their season at the big league level starts the middle of February. And for some of them, it runs through the playoffs up until the 1st of November. Just hard to stay mentally prepared for that long a period of time.
And I imagine that's one of the key things that comes with experience, learning how to handle this thing on an everyday basis. And that flare foul into the right field corner. Ben Davis, his first 32 games with the Padres, had an 11-game hitting streak. And then after a couple of days low, he put a 10-gamer together. Started off in a tear, hitting .439. But the everyday toll of catching. Even out here in cool San Diego, playing half your games. Fastball just missing up and away, ball 3.
But there aren't many people in baseball that Ben Davis would trade futures with. This kid owns this town already. He's young, he's single, he's good looking. People go crazy. He's on covers of magazines.
And the leadoff walk. Second of the game for Ron Vallone. Damian Jackson coming up. Well, we're back to the gridiron tomorrow on ESPN at 7:30 Eastern. Coverage begins with college game night, and then Clemson and number 8 Virginia Tech from Blacksburg. Corey Moore, the defensive end, and his partner John Engelberger lead a stingy Hokie defense. And quarterback Brandon Streeter, the Tigers, threw for 343 yards in the Clemson upset of Virginia. Tech won last year 37-0, so look out. The Tigers will be mad about that one tomorrow night. We've got a huge weekend of college football ahead. Baseball pennant races are red hot. A week and a half left in the season. Playoff action coming your way on ESPN and ESPN Radio. Damian Jackson at 233. This kid can fly, but he's having a hard time stealing first base at times this year.
They don't let you do that, do they? One thing I did like, in the first pitch he saw on this at bat, he attempted to bunt for a base hit. That's one of those things that works even when it doesn't work. What he did was he drew in Brett Boone at third base. The infield's closer to him. More holes for a ground ball to get through.
Good fastball at the knees from Vallone.
But for a ground ball to get through, you got to swing the bat. Jackson, right there with Mike Cameron, has had problems all year with too many strikeouts. When you've got the speed of those two guys, you got to find a way to put it in play.
Will he shorten his swing on 1 and 2? He makes contact to right center. It chases Cameron into the gap, and Mike is there to cover the ground for the first out. That'll bring up the pitcher, Andy Ashby, who swings the bat fairly well. Good bunter. In a situation where you're down by 2, he may bunt the runner into scoring position despite being the second out.
I would think that would be the plan of attack for Bruce Bochy right here. Get a runner into scoring position, possibly getting closer to the Cincinnati Reds 2-0 lead, but also get Andy Ashby back on the bench, let him sit down, catch his breath a little bit more, get ready to go pitch the top of the third.
Well, Aaron Boone expects the bunt. It's out in front of the plate. Fumbled by Taubensee. He still has time, close but out. And that's why even if you're the pitcher, you run out everything. He almost beat that out.
You know, that's a great lesson right there for all the youngsters out there watching. It's only 90 feet to first base. At the most, you're going to have to run down there 4 or 5 times. Ashby does his job. You don't have to go at 1,000% down that line, but just hustle down the line. Stay on the inside part of the bag. You never know. When people know that you're going to hustle all the time, that puts more pressure on the catcher, on the infielder. Ashby hoping for the call, looking at the first base umpire, Mike Winters, but not getting it.
Well, he got the sacrifice down. Ben Davis at second, 2 outs for Kilvio Veras. Veras will normally put the ball in play, so you give yourself a chance to cut the lead in half. Hot shot off the body of Aaron Boone for a base hit, first time up. And off to the right goes the foul, evening the count, 1-1. Well, our ESPN theme for September is playoff pursuit. No team in baseball embodies that more than tonight's visiting Cincinnati Reds. They have been looking up at the Astros almost the entire season. Right now they're looking at Ben Davis at second with 2 outs. 1 ball, 1 strike the count. And Veras a chopper to third. Boone has to back up. Long throw, quick runner, but he got him. And we go to the top of the third with Cincinnati coming up. Since the All-Star break, the Cincinnati Reds have not trailed the Houston Astros by more than 4 games. It's 3 right now.
A 2-run single by Jorge Posada. Now bases loaded, bottom 9. Jaime Navarro walks Cole O'Neill with the bases loaded. The Yanks' 23rd win this year in their last at bat. Couple that with the Red Sox loss at home against Toronto. And the Yanks now lead Boston by 4 in the American League East.
Thank you, Bill Pito. The Yankees and Cleveland each with 92 wins in the American League now. Texas at 89, trying to win their 90th of the year tonight. Some magic numbers are tumbling. There's the Indians, a half game back of the Yankees. Rangers 3.5 back in that race for the best record, which means you get to play the wild card. Top three: Sean Casey, Greg Vaughn, and Dimitri Young for the Cincinnati Reds. Sean Casey, a 2-out first inning walk his first time. It was a heartbreaking ball just off his left kneecap. Almost got him.
I tell you, this is an amazing story right here, Bob. I was there in Cincinnati last year when he got hit by that thrown baseball right in his eye. Broke 4 bones.
Well, he thought it was a foul ball. He was looking back at the home plate umpire, Steve Ripley, waiting for a foul ball call.
Well, this is where you simply just got to get a little bit of help. All that has to happen here, Steve Ripley, the home plate umpire, just check the baseball. Sean Casey has black shoes. If the ball hit off his foot, there'll normally be a little smudge there. Ripley did not think it did. He thought Casey was trying to pull something over on him right there. Not going to go for it. He's got the baseball in his hand. He's telling Jack McKeon there's nothing that indicates that ball hit his foot here. Trader Jack will try to get Ripley to get some help, but he says, I don't need it. He's still going to throw the baseball out, though.
Well, folks here in San Diego know Trader Jack very well. Padres, one of his past managerial assignments. Looked like it might have hit the very front of his foot.
Well, what makes me think that it did hit his foot was the way the ball came up immediately. This ball was hit pretty hard right there. There's going to be a hard ground ball down the first base line. Instead, the ball went back towards the second baseman with a high arc to it. Sean Casey was right there.
Next up, Greg Vaughn, who struck out swinging with Casey aboard 2 innings ago. Ashby, a 14-pitch first inning, 18 pitches in the second. Really not that many pitches considering he faced 7 batters. He'd love to have a 1-2-3 to get himself settled down here in the third.
Well, he's always had terrific control, and that pitch count would not be nearly as high if he could have fielded his position on Vallone's ground ball back to him.
2-0 pitch. It's lashed into left center. Over to cut it off. Reggie Sanders can't get there. And Greg Vaughn is into second base with a 1-out double. His 17th double of the year to go with a couple of triples and 41 home runs.
Vaughn got the count where he wanted, and he also got the fastball in the location he was looking. He got to extend right there. We saw him in his first at bat on that ball in on him where he broke the bat. That time he hit it right on the heart of the bat, lined it to the wall. Sanders, even with his speed, not able to get to it, and Vaughn in scoring position.
Reggie Sanders quick in the outfield. Ball was placed perfectly, and here's Dimitri Young with 1 out. Backdoor breaking ball, and he fouls it off to the left. Dimitri Young tearing it up in September at .358. 4 homers this month of his total of 12. Came up through the Cardinals system. They loved his offense.
Yeah, but he came up as a first baseman. Last time I checked, the Cardinals have got a pretty good first baseman.
Up the middle. Damian Jackson. No problem there for the man who's made 25 errors this year. That's the second out. Yeah, Dimitri Young was actually in St. Louis before Mark McGwire showed up.
They had him groomed for that first base position. A switch hitter, power from both sides. But you've got to give Dimitri a lot of credit. When he saw McGwire get there, he said, I know I'm not going to play there. I've got to learn to play the outfield. And he has not been a bad outfielder. Comes over to Cincinnati, thinks he's going to play first base there. They make the trade for Sean Casey.
And the interesting thing about the McGwire deal, until Mark actually signed with the Cardinals late in '97 after coming over from Oakland, nobody really believed that he would stay around that long. The Cardinals were in a situation where maybe they were renting McGwire for a while. He fell in love with the town, signed the contract, and well, the rest is history. 1-0 pitch. Breaking ball hit well to left, but right there is Sanders. And Eddie Dobbinsie, who's been on fire in this series, even with that out, 8 for his last 10. Ashby gets the scoreless third inning he was looking for. The cage is probably worn out. Couple of bats busted. I doubt that. Tony Gwynn is ready to hit again as we go to the bottom of the third. We mention this periodically. He doesn't just show up and hit, although he probably could. No man in baseball prepares for his craft any better than Tony Gwynn. Even has a ballpark in town named after him over at San Diego State.
Right along with that, Bobby, he's got a book that he wrote called The Art of Hitting that I have read, and I would highly recommend to any youngster out there wanting to learn the fundamentals, basic fundamentals of how to swing a baseball bat.
Breaking ball away. 1 ball, 1 strike.
With a lot of these books that you get, the guys, they talk about high-dollar machines. You got to buy this, you need that. Tony keeps it real simple. He talks about getting a tee, getting some 50-cent wiffle balls, and just finding a place where you can swing the bat, and he explains what you're supposed to do with the swing.
Tony gets jammed. And down to first base for Casey, unassisted. Tony Gwynn with that 16-game hitting streak, 0 for 2. I'm not sure he expected that ball to come sliding in on him the way it did.
There might be a chapter in there on pitches like this on the inside corner not to swing at right there. The first time the fastball balloon moved away from him. This one runs right back in. Look at that late movement right there. And even with the quick hands and the strong wrist of Tony Gwynn, not able to get to that. That's the one thing about Tony that has improved over the years, has been his wrist strength.
Reggie Sanders 1 for 3 Monday night. 1 for 4 with 3 runs batted in last night and a single his first time up tonight. He's enjoying this series against his former ball club.
Bobby, to finish that thought on Tony Gwynn's wrist getting strong, you say, well, how can that happen? It's by design. He actually has bats where he takes weights and screws them in to the knob of the bat, not the end of the bat. He takes that and he'll take it to use off the tee. He'll take it into the batting cage. And that's how he's kept his wrist as strong as he has over the years. The 3 basic fundamentals that he talks about in the art of hitting is to start your hands first, land soft with your front foot, and take the knob of the bat to the baseball. Not many have done it better than he has.
And it also enables him to take the ball the other way so beautifully. Here's the 0-2. High and tight to Sanders. Is there a chapter in there about playing point guard as well? Tony was a pretty good one at San Diego State. I would take him over any other leadoff man in baseball on the hard court. The 1-2 pitch. Fastball away, and Sanders thought it was close enough to be hacking. Earlier tonight on ESPN, a 5-2 Atlanta win as Glavine beat Hershiser. Braves do it to the Mets again to extend that lead to 3 games now. They'll also be playing each other next week. There's a broken bat, little flare to right center. Pokey Reese out there, can't quite get it. He got a great jump on it, just couldn't get there. Reggie Sanders 2 for 2 tonight. Well, from Cashman Field in Vegas, the White Sox and the A's in the World Series. No, I'm not kidding. The Charlotte Knights, the International League champions, the AAA of Chicago, and the PCL champion Vancouver Canadians, the Athletics AAA affiliate. They're tied at 1 apiece. And for more, log on to ESPN.com. Part of the Go Network, Go.com. That AAA World Series, the new crowning jewel to the AAA season. We add that on to our coverage of the AAA All-Star Game we had earlier.
You want to get a head start on your fantasy league baseball team next year? You might want to check out that ball game. There could be a couple of guys there producing at the big league level next year.
Hey, how about those fantasy league folks? They're calling the Chicago White Sox to put Frank Thomas on the DL so they can replace him on their rotisserie teams. He's not officially disabled. And those guys who have Frank Thomas have to keep him, and they've been calling the White Sox office. as reported on SportsCenter earlier this afternoon. Isn't that something?
There's been some problems with Mr. Thomas and the White Sox the last month or so.
Rookie of the year.
I don't think the whole story has been told as of yet. Sanders back easily there at first, and look at him right away. Check with first base coach Davey Lopes.
Well, we were in Anaheim a couple of weeks ago, and Frank Thomas in that series had been sent home by the White Sox with a bad ankle. Reggie Sanders having a good time in this series. A perfect night tonight. Nevin the batter. And the 0-1 count. High chopper, hit on the plate. Might be a hit. No play for anybody. And the Padres have 2 on, 1 out. Even had Aaron Boone fielded that with a bare hand, Nevin would have beaten it out.
When you're having a year like Phil Nevin is having, a lot of these things happen from time to time. First baseman Sean Casey of the Reds hit a ball a little bit like this, but it hit off his foot. He got charged with an out. Nevin got enough top hand on that one. Boone does all he can do right here. If it comes up, you got a chance to make a miracle play. If it doesn't, it's not hit hard enough that it's going to get through the infield. And he knows that the captain of the Reds, Barry Larkin, was going to be behind him backing up the play.
Here's Wally Joyner batting with 2 men on. Last time he batted with 3 men on and bounced into a 1-2 fielder's choice at home plate. Important batter for Valone, a left-hander with right-handed Rivera on deck. Wally Joyner, 38 RBIs this year. This ball is into right center. Sanders will score. Nevin tripped and has to go back to second. He was heading for third, but he tripped up. Padres have sliced the Cincinnati lead in half.
Well, Nevin knew one thing. He knew the throw was going to come to third base to try to get him. They had no chance of getting Reggie Sanders. He got a good jump on the ball. The ball was hit to right center field. A difficult throw for Cameron to make. Here comes Nevin around the back. He trips up there. And San Diego's pretty fortunate that he did trip, because he would have been out by 20 feet at third base from that strong throw of center fielder Mike Cameron.
First and second, 1 out still. A run home, and Rivera could put the Padres on top. He goes up hacking. Had a pretty good lick at it. Ball tailing away. Ruben Rivera, with the bases loaded, struck out his first time. So Reggie Sanders scores, making it a 2-1 game. Breaking ball, way high and tight.
You could just tell from the reaction of Ruben Rivera that bothered him right there. That pitch was almost on the inside corner of the plate, even though it was up a little bit. Rivera just does not know what a ball or a strike is as of yet. If he figures that out, he's going to be an all-star for San Diego.
Well, he offered it the pitch. Steve Ripley with the strike call. May have been a called strike. Rivera with a half swing, 1 ball, 2 strikes. He got handcuffed pretty well right there.
Ruben needs to understand that with 389 at bats and 134 strikeouts on in a year, he's not going to get many borderline calls.
1 out, 2 on, a run home. And there he is with another half swing.
The youngster's just so strong. The hitting instructor of the Padres, Merv Retman, has told him, you don't even need to take a stride. You get the same amount of credit for a home run that goes 380 feet as you do one that goes 480 feet. Rivera, one of those guys, just will not shorten up his stride or his swing. And until he does that, he's going to struggle.
Valone throws the ball into center field. Now both runners advance. Cameron was charging, and each pitcher has made a throwing error now.
These are the kind of things that you normally see in spring training. Come September, guys are supposed to be fundamentally sound. You see the quick short throw right there, but there's no play. Vallone, the left-handed pitcher, turning that way, he can see that Nevin's already back. If there's not a gap between the infielder and the base runner, you don't make the throw. But he tried to force it in there, and it cost him.
Infield back. Fastball high, 3-2. The Reds will concede a run here to get an out if it's hit up the middle, or maybe even to Boone. Well off the line at first is Casey. Outfield straightaway. And the Padres 90 feet away from tying this game. Vallone shaking off a couple of signs of Ed Taubensee. 3-2 pitch, nowhere near the plate. Bases loaded again. That's Ron Vallone's third walk of the night. He will deal with Ben Davis, the switch hitter, who he walked last time. Ron Vallone has never pitched a complete game in the major leagues, and we don't like his chances tonight with that pitch count.
The guy that really doesn't like that pitch count is their pitching coach, Don Gullet. He knows that Vallone will be lucky to get through 5, maybe 6 innings. That means 3 more innings for that already tired bullpen.
Those runners were Nevin, Joyner, and Rivera, third, second, and first. And strike one to Ben Davis. 30 RBIs, a .250 batter from the right side. Pretty good totals for a young catcher, playing in only his 72nd game. And a pop-up on the infield, now to the outfield grass, Pokey Reese. That's the second out.
The veteran Ron Vallone just taking advantage of the youngster Ben Davis right there. He knows that Davis likes to extend his arms. He's a big guy. He's got long arms. And if you can get in his kitchen, he cannot do much with that. Davis needed to let that pitch go. But with a lot of youngsters, bases loaded in situations like that, they don't have the ability to slow that moment down. It's kind of like that 16-year-old teenager when he first gets out on the freeway learning to drive 55 miles an hour. You know what I mean? Those white lines just go by you too quick, and that's what happened to Ben Davis there.
Another pop-up from Damian Jackson. Is it playable? Doesn't appear like it is. And it's just into the camera bay at the outfield end of the dugout. Strange configuration here at Qualcomm Stadium. This is a multi-purpose stadium, of course, where the Chargers play, and Super Bowls have been played here. They've played soccer here. They've added some new seats down behind home plate a couple of years ago, and the dugout cutouts are rather unusual. The dirt shaped like home plate. Padres will be in a new ballpark in a couple of years downtown. No balls and 1 strike to Jackson, who flied to center first time up. It's a breaking ball from Vallone off the plate. Bill Nevin had an infield hit. Wally Joyner an RBI base hit. Ruben Rivera a walk. Bases juiced, 2 outs, and a foul off to the right.
Talked about Vallone being part of some big name trades. The same holds true for a guy who's still considered a rookie for the Padres, their hitter Damian Jackson. He's involved in the trade going from Cleveland to Cincinnati for John Smiley. And then, of course, he was involved coming in the trade for Greg Vaughn here to San Diego. There's a lot of things to like about this kid. He's got power. He's got speed.
He's got a 1-2 count, and he's out. Vallone nipping the inside corner. So his error does not cost him a run, and the Padres have already stranded 5 base runners. 3,000 will start next year. Tony Gwynn's has been fulfilled here in 1999. We go top of the 4th. Aaron Boone for the Reds against the Padres right-hander Andy Ashby. Pokey Reese and then Ron Vallone to follow. Padres have left the bases loaded twice already with strikeouts. 7 runners stranded in the first 3 innings. And a pop-up right near the mound. Nevin On to the dirt. Tricky little play.
Pretty good call on the part of Andy Ashby right there. Look, I've already messed up one play. As soon as that ball was hitting the air, he started pointing at it. Somebody come help me. Such a simple play for anybody. There's probably 30,000 people here at the ballpark that would like to have made that play, but for some reason the rule of thumb says for the pitcher to get out of the way. You can't catch that ball. Well, we know that most of them could. Ashby decided not to, and it was a more difficult play for Nevin.
Yeah, that's like an outfielder hitting that bullpen mound just as you catch the ball. Suddenly your knees are up in your chest. Pokey Reese, a fielder's choice first time, came around to score in that 2-run Cincinnati top of the second. All the way from first base on the throwing error by Ashby. Offering to bunt, fastball tails to the inside corner. Steve Ripley's been pretty generous with that inside corner against right-handed batters. It's the same sort of pitch that struck out Damian Jackson a moment ago. And I like this, Rick. We're seeing some guys pitch inside tonight. Some feel it's a lost art these days.
I think most people feel that way when you look at the guys that are still having success, that are dominating at the big league level. It's pitchers that will pitch inside, guys that intimidate a little bit. Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, even guys like Greg Maddux. You don't have to throw hard to pitch inside. Keep people honest. Move them off the plate, get them out of the way. It has never changed, and it never will change.
3-2. Breaking ball away.
Such a simple game. Once you've moved the feet of a hitter, look at that swing right there. See that hip go completely open? All he had was his hands just to flick at. Look at the hips are gone there. All he's got left is one arm to try to get a piece of that. You can't do anything with a baseball with a swing like that. It was all set up by something in.
And that might have been a called strike on the outside corner. Now he misses with the fastball. Andy Ashby has walked two, hit one, made an error. And he's usually not the kind of veteran who will beat himself. College Game Day starts all the action on Saturday on ESPN. Then we've got one of the hottest football teams in the country. The Nittany Lions, ranked number 2. They're 4-0. That big win over Miami last week. And then the Gators. Quarterback Doug Johnson threw for 343 last year. Defensive end Alex Brown had 5 sacks when they beat Tennessee. Florida, Kentucky in the SEC. Indiana, Penn State in the Big Ten. We've got 2 of the top 3 coming up on Saturday. And for more on college football, log on to ESPN.com. Part of the Go Network. Go.com. Ron Vallone, the ball on which Ashby threw it away first time up. Deadens it nicely. A look to second, but a play at first for Nevin. It'll go 4-3 on the sacrifice. I'm sorry, 5-4. Third to second. And at second base is Pokey Reese with 2 outs for Mike Cameron.
Center fielder, Mike Cameron.
I mean, you like to have this bunt to the first baseman. Look how far Wally Joyner was away from the play. Phil Nevin right on top of it. The only reason Vallone able to get away with that is the speed of Pokey Reese. Phil Nevin simply cannot take a chance on not getting an out on that sacrifice bunt there. He makes the easy throw across the diamond to first.
Mike Cameron now 1 for 2. Cameron a chance for his 61st run batted in. Not the usual ratio of success for Andy Ashby. He's got a better than 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio on the year. That ball to left, right to Reggie Sanders, and the Reds are gone in the 4th. We've had a dozen runners stranded already. Ashby will lead off, then Veras and Tony Gwynn's third at bat coming right up. games with so much at stake. If the Reds can win in San Diego tonight, they could keep the Houston magic number at 7 and only be 2.5 out. But Tony Gwynn and the Padres have some other ideas. Their offense coming alive in the last inning. And they've got to knock some runners home with 2 out. Jack McKeon, starter Ron Vallone, has already stranded 7 Padres. Right now it's at 3. Whether it goes to 3.5 or 2.5 is up to the Reds tonight. And the Mets knocked off again in Atlanta. Cincinnati an identical number behind in the divisional and the wild card race. And we've had that strange situation a few times lately where a ball club is closer to first place than it is to the wild card at times.
And the Cincinnati Reds, talking with Barry Larkin before the game, they don't even want to think about the wild card. They're thinking about winning their division.
How about reporters last week asking Bobby Valentine about his postseason rotation? Are you kidding me? Breaking ball inside, 2-2 to the pitcher, Andy Ashby. It's a sacrifice tonight.
Cincinnati knows that with only being 2 games behind the Astros in the loss column, they still control their own destiny.
That's a fastball in there, and Ashby gone. Second straight strikeout for Vallone, his 3rd of the night.
Ashby not known to do a whole lot offensively. There's one of the reasons why. You take fastballs down the middle, you're going to go sit down a lot of the time. But to finish that thought on Cincinnati, they've got 2 games left next Tuesday and Wednesday at the Houston Astrodome. They're 8-3 on the year against the Astros. You think we'll go into the dome, that goes against them? They're 4-0 at the Astrodome this year against Houston. So there's still a lot of baseball left.
There's Veras offering to bunt, pulling his bat back. And Rick, some of that took place during that 10-game winning streak the Reds had in late May. Cardinals are coming in Friday through Monday for 4, then the 2 at Houston. They finish up with 3 at Milwaukee. They do not have a losing record against any of those teams, and as Rick said, unbeaten indoors. Fastball is in there. They started this club 14-18. Then they had the 10-game winning streak in late May, improving their record to 31-15. They won 6 straight against Arizona and 7 of 9 against Houston. That gives those ball clubs a little to think about if Cincinnati's around in October. No balls, 2 strikes. And Veras hacks a pitch up, out of play. Tony Gwynn on deck. You don't figure Tony's going to go 3 or 4 at-bats without getting a base hit, so this is a big AB for Kilvio Veras. If he gets on here, Gwynn might just move him around to third base for Reggie Sanders. Bottom of the 4th. Reds on top 2-1. The Padres have out-hit them 5-3.
Even though Kilvio Veras has fallen behind in this at-bat, it's a typical Kilvio Veras at-bat right here. He's always going to make the starting pitcher work a little bit. And that was one of the keys to San Diego's success last year when they went to the World Series. They would tire down that starting pitcher, and they would get to the middle relievers and just beat up on him from that point on. Swing and a miss. Veras overmatched on a fastball away. 3 in a row by Vallone, but Rick Sutcliffe, the first one was really crucial. Yeah, he struck out Ruben Rivera swinging in the first inning, but this fastball just on the inside corner in the opinion of Steve Ripley, and he's the guy, the only guy that really counts, was what got Damian Jackson looking and kept Cincinnati with a 2-1 lead. Tony Gwynn. Fly ball up the middle. Right there. Easy grab for Cameron. Tony Gwynn 0 for 3, and the top of the 5th coming up, and some big hitters. Barry Larkin is first, then the power of Sean Casey and the strength of Greg Vaughn. It's 2 in the 2nd. Padres are running the 3rd. San Diego most of the hitting so far, but 7 men stranded, and at the top end of that bat stands a big man, Greg Vaughn. He's in the hole with Larkin up, Casey on deck, top 5 against San Diego's Andy Ashby. How about the facial hair of Greg Vaughn? He had that last year in San Diego, but for the last 32 years, not allowed in Cincinnati. And the next thing you know, they'll have white shoes at Riverfront. All of a sudden, a guy hits 50 home runs, you get a little lax with those rules, huh?
Yeah.
They did the same thing in Arizona for a guy named the Big Unit. Change the rule to have one of those two guys on my team.
March shots regime is over in Cincinnati. Fresh new start for this franchise. One of the great franchises in National League history. The oldest franchise, in fact, in the senior circuit. And the 2-1 pitch. Fouled off. They have a new Riverfront Stadium on the way, right next to where the Bengals will eventually play. Cincinnati's a great baseball town.
They knew right from the very beginning that they wanted Barry Larkin to be a part of that organization. They drafted him #1 out of high school. They did it once again out of college. They were determined to get him.
Yeah, he decided to be a Michigan Wolverine for a while. Gilby O'Barris is under the pop-up by Barry. And Larkin is 0 for 3 tonight. Sean Casey and Rick. I guess we better tell the folks, don't adjust your TV. It was raining in San Diego.
It was flat pouring, and that's the reason nobody thought that this ball would go out of the ballpark. It had the topspin on it that'll normally bring it back down to the field, but it just shows you the tremendous strength of the young first baseman of Cincinnati.
His 24th home run.
What a great kid, too. Just before the ball game, him going around the cages, shaking hands with everybody. Nice to meet you.
March 30th of 1998, Jim Bowden shocked the National League by trading his opening day starter, who was supposed to pitch the very next day, Dave Burba, to the Indians. And look what they got in return. That ball takes a funny hop on Sanders. Reggie's throw into second is late. We'll see how they score it. Casey, his first base hit of the night. He's on for the second time. But when Greg Vaughn came to this ball club, as Rick Sutcliffe told you earlier, he instilled a new attitude with this young bunch.
When I first got here, it was like, it's okay, we'll get them tomorrow, don't worry about it, it's okay. And I said, hey, that's an excuse, you know what I mean? And before you know it, you'll be 40 games back, and it'll be a long summer. So you got to get rid of all that, you know what I mean? When you come in, every time you put this uniform on, you have to expect to go out there and win. It doesn't matter who you're facing. I don't care what their lineup says versus our lineup. A piece of paper has never won anything, you know what I mean? You still have to go out there and get the job done.
Very well said right there from the veteran left fielder of Cincinnati. A lot of young guys on this club that are looking for somebody to lead the way. Barry Larkin has always been a guy that led by example. Greg Vaughn a little bit more vocal. Got a young first baseman, a young third baseman, a young second baseman, some young outfielders. He becomes that much more important.
Vaughn a fastball, and he chops it foul. 0-2.
Vaughn is also a guy that gives a lot of credit to his success last year and this year to the hitting instructor for the San Diego Padres, Merv Retman. Tony Gwynn always talks about Merv when he talks about his 8 batting titles. Ken Caminiti gives a lot of credit to Merv for the MVP he won in '96. Merv's project now has been Reggie Sanders and Ruben Rivera.
0-2 to Vaughn. Fastball right side. Reds are 0 for 6 tonight with runners in scoring position. That's where Casey is with 1 out here. Top of the 5th. Greg Vaughn, the first 100 RBI man in a Cincinnati uniform since Eric Davis did it 10 years ago. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Vaughn with 107. And he takes that one just off the plate. And some of the fans who cheered for him last year wanted Greg Vaughn to get punched out on that one.
Trying to paint that outside corner. Look at Ben Davis right there trying to give it a little bit of help. Steve Ripley not going for it.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
That was always the toughest part for me pitching, when you'd face a guy that was a former teammate. Vaughn and Andy Ashby got to be real close last year. When you try to come up and in, you know, if it's a buddy, you know, you just, a lot of times you leave that pitch out over the plate. You don't want to hit a buddy, you know. It's somebody you don't know. It's a lot easier to bury that thing on the inner part of the plate.
Yeah, that buddy's out there trying to ruin your evening. Here's a 3-2 pitch. Breaking ball, fly ball left field. Sanders didn't pick it up right away, and he will watch it go away. Vaughn with a high fly ball that leaves the ballpark, and Cincinnati leads 4-1. Number 42 for Greg Vaughn. And the RBI total jumps up to 109. Ashby giving up his 24th home run.
You flat just cannot teach this right here. This is just pure strength. Look at that right there. One hand off the bat. All he did was just pull the head of the bat through the zone. Look at that right there. I mean, everything was gone. His hits were gone. His stride was too long. But when you've got the strength of Greg Vaughn, anything's possible. He put the head of the bat on a pitch that was up in the zone. It extends the lead.
Here's Dimitri Young taking a strike. The Reds hit their 197th home run of the year.
I honestly think the friendship between Ashby and Greg Vaughn is the reason Ashby stayed away from that inside part. He tried to sneak one by him away, and it cost him.
Now, Dimitri hits the ball well the other way, but Sanders is there just short of the track, 2 down. Dimitri Young 0 for 2, hit by a pitch. Reds have now hit 44 home runs in September. And they've got a chance to set their all-time record not only for a month but for an entire season. Back in the days when Ted Kluszewski had those big arms hitting the ball out of Crossley Field, the Reds hit 221 total home runs in 1956. They hit 50 in August of that year on their way to that 221, and they're well on their way with 44 this month.
What makes it a little bit easier for them, too, to catch that record is the fact that there's so much at stake right now. Even when they get a 4-1 lead, 5-1, they can't let up.
Taubensee, a high chopper that hits on the plate. Joyner waits, scoops. It is out at first base on a close play. Sean Casey, a one-out double. Greg Vaughn, a towering home run, his 42nd. Players in the big leagues simply respect. We're going to find out who they all are November 5th. Join ESPN for the Players' Choice Awards. The boys all voted this afternoon, including the Reds and the Padres here in San Diego. The best in the game in 11 categories, like outstanding pitchers and players in each league, and the player of the decade for the 90s. Who will the players vote for? Tony Gwynn will surely be in the mix. That'll be Friday, November 5th at 8:30 Eastern on ESPN. Fans have their game. Now the players get their vote. Bottom 5, Reggie Sanders, a perfect night, 2 for 2. His batting average sitting at 293. 2 singles with a run scored. He's trying to make a late rush and get up to that 300 mark. He hit 268 for the Reds last year. And I remember our ESPN colleague Ray Knight telling me, as we compare the 2 pitchers, and things are pretty close right now through 4.5, that Barry Larkin's Barry Larkin, but when healthy, Reggie Sanders was the overall best player that Ray Knight had on his Cincinnati ball clubs when healthy.
Think back to 1995, a terrific year for Reggie Sanders. Going into the playoffs, he hit well over 300, and all of a sudden the Atlanta Braves pitching staff just sliced him up. They exposed the fact he couldn't handle the fastball up and in. He couldn't handle the breaking ball off the plate. 10 strikeouts and just 16 at bats.
He's handling everything right now, but is this one fair? No. By about 5 feet, it's a foul ball.
He really just went into a funk for the next 4 years. He came over here to San Diego, and on the first day of spring training, he just handed himself to Merv Breffman. He says, I need help. You know what's wrong. Let's fix it. Him and the Mervless went to work on it right away. They relaxed his shoulders. Merv told him to be tension-free. He said, you're just simply too quick at home plate. You watch Reggie get into the box now. Everything he does is supposed to be slow.
1 ball and 2 strikes. He offered. Did he go? No, says Mike Winters. Ball 2.
This is a typical at-bat right here. The last couple of years that would have been over with for Reggie Sanders. He wouldn't have battled. He would have done something too quick, too soon. He wanted to go for that pitch, but by staying back just long enough, he's able to get a look at another pitch here.
Got him. Vallone slipping one right by him. Good tailing action there. An 83-mile-an-hour changeup. Ron Vallone has 5 strikeouts, and 4 of them have come in the last 5 batters.
Vallone has always had a lot of movement to everything he throws. That's the off-speed pitch straight down. Sanders out in front. And the key to any off-speed pitch is that your delivery looks like that of a fastball. You can get away with balls up in the zone if your delivery fools them a little bit and gets them out in front.
Here's Phil Nevin. He's had a walk and a base hit. The Padres have a bunch of singles tonight. Cincinnati's offense more productive because they've had the extra base hit. They've had a double from Taubensee for a run, a double by Vaughn in the 3rd. He was stranded. A Casey double in the 5th, followed by the Greg Vaughn home run. So they have 4 extra base hits of their total of 5. Nevin a pretty good hack on 2-0.
Pretty much a typical box score here in the early going for San Diego on the year. They got some production from the top of the lineup. Kilby with the base hit. You got Tony Gwynn there. Reggie with a couple. Nevin on base twice. Wally's got a hit. But when Wally Joyner was not healthy, the bottom of the lineup just did not provide anything this year. Smith coming in there, looking at Andy Ashby. I would imagine the first thing he says is, hey, the game plan was to stay in on Greg Vaughn. What happened? How come we went away and got hurt? Both of them, you can see, just shaking their heads there.
As if it's a question neither wants to have to answer. 2-2, and Nevin has one blown by him. Ron Vallone now is starting to show some of that form of earlier in the season, when every time he went out, the Reds seemed to be involved in one-hit games.
About this fastball right here, 91 miles an hour. That's the 4-seam fastball, the one that does not have any movement on it. It's going to have the highest radar reading because it gets to home plate in the same line.
Here's Wally Joyner, and it seems like the right-handers are having more trouble with him than the lefties. Joyner an RBI base hit last time. Wally's 39th run batted in. June 14th against the Mets, 5+ innings, 1 hit. June 24th at Houston, 7 innings, 1 hit for Vallone. June 30th against the Diamondbacks, 8 innings, 1 hit. July 21st against the Cardinals, 8+, 1 hit. He can be unhittable, as he is right now, with 5 of his 6 Ks coming since the end of the 3rd inning.
Cincinnati responsible for 4 one-hitters this year. 3 of those were started by Ron Vallone.
1-1 pitch. Joyner gets jammed and flies one to center. Looks easy for Cameron. And a 1-2-3 inning. 8 straight now for Ron Vallone. We played 5 in San Diego. The Reds trailing Houston by 3, and they lead here by 3. On to the top of the 6th inning here at Qualcomm Stadium, San Diego. Bob Carpenter, Rick Sutcliffe, ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball. On the heels of the 5-2 Atlanta win over the Mets, it's the Reds by 3 here in San Diego, 4-1. Bottom of the order, and it starts off with Aaron Boone. Reds trying to creep to within 2.5 of Houston with this win tonight. Boone a sacrifice and a pop-up. Inside target. Ashby too far in there. 1 ball, 1 strike.
This guy right here, Aaron Boone, has come a long ways since opening day. He had a stomach virus. Got sent back to the minor leagues for a while. And then just last week was rewarded, or awarded, I should say, with the National League Player of the Week.
Some defensive changes for the Padres. We'll update you shortly. Swing and a miss. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Eric Owens into the game. He will play left field and bat in Tony Gwynn's spot. Reggie Sanders in right. So Tony Gwynn 0 for 3 out of the game, and his hitting streak is over. Is there another reason why Tony came out?
I Think back to last night's ball game. Tony got a base hit in the first inning, and he seemed to kind of tweak that right knee. He's had trouble with his left calf the whole second half of the year. Could be one of those two things. Hard to believe a guy's left calf could be worn out when Tony Gwynn has spent a lifetime just making left-hand turns. It seemed like everything he did got him headed in the direction of second base. You know he's not afraid of Ron Vallone or anybody. Tony Gwynn's never been a guy to duck anybody. Something physically is wrong.
3-2 to Aaron Boone. He pulls one foul. Way out ahead of it.
Boone said the toughest part for him this year, this ball hit hard right down the line, just foul, has been adjusting to hitting in a different part of the lineup. He's hit 7th and 8th for the most part this year. Coming up through the minor leagues, he always hit 3rd or 4th. He was in the middle of the lineup. He had protection. He knew guys were going to challenge him. That's not always the case when you're down in the lineup.
He rips one up the middle. Pokey Reese coming up. The long ball's been the difference in this one, and the Padres have some guys, the Reds that is, who can hit it a long way.
These are tremendous athletes and players on this team. Sean Casey, he'll win a batting title before it's all over with. Dimitri Lang can flat out hit both ways. It doesn't matter. Big Nasty just steps on the ball and hits it hard. He has bad intentions on every swing. You know what I mean? And we have some big, strong guys on this team. Just swing hard, just in case you hit it. You know what I mean? And I think that's our approach. We don't worry about the strikeouts. We don't worry about anything. We're aggressive. And as long as you stay aggressive, I figure good things can happen.
Aaron Boone on a high throw is safe at second. The Reds are 3rd behind the Astros and the Padres. 2 of the top 3 stealing teams in the National League here tonight. And for Aaron Boone swiping that, his 16th.
Pretty good team speed all the way around for the Cincinnati Reds, and a good combination to run on because of the veteran Andy Ashby being slow to home plate. Ben Davis had to be perfect with that throw right there because of the jump of Aaron Boone. They raved about the arm of Ben Davis from the day he signed with San Diego, coming up through the minor leagues. Always a high success at throwing people out, but with Ashby being slow to the plate, Sterling Hitchcock, one of the worst in baseball holding runners on. It's tough to have a good success rate.
Well, remember, we told you the Reds were 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Well, Greg Vaughn took care of that. Now they have another with Aaron Boone at second base, nobody out here in the 6th. Jack McKeon, 678 major league wins as a manager. Career winning percentage of .510 in 11 years with the Royals, the A's, the Padres, and the Reds. If he wins tonight, that'll be 200 with Cincinnati. Some thought he wouldn't even be here this year. They finished last year pretty strong, and this year they have been in the hunt the entire time.
He just explains it real simply. He says, I'm a baseball man. He was at the ballpark during the birth of 2 of his children. I mean, Trader Jack, where'd he get that nickname? This is a guy that he traded his own son-in-law. Greg Booker is the bullpen coach of the San Diego Padres. If he thought he could better his team, pack your bags, you're gone. Kind of tough to explain to your daughter, but I guess he was able to get it done. They're still married.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Out of play, right side.
Bruce Bochy, Jack McKeon's counterpart tonight, gives a lot of credit to his success as a big league manager, and even that as a big league player, to Jack McKeon. Bochy one time out of a job playing winter ball, called a lot of general managers. Jack McKeon said, sure, come on over. He got to extend his playing career.
And here he is managing against him.
And he finally had the opportunity to reward Jack McKeon for all the help that Jack gave him This year, he named Jack McKeon as one of the coaches to the All-Star team that Bruce Bochy was managing.
And the way the Reds went first half, Jack deserved to be there.
Yes, he did.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Pokey Reese. 0 for 1 with a walk. Looks at one low and away. That'll fill the count, 3-2. Andy Ashby has had a hard time putting hitters away tonight. Padre bullpen starting to stir a bit. Aaron Boone led off with the single, then stole second. Nobody out here at the top of the 6th. And a half swing foul.
Ashby just has not been sharp all night tonight. A base on ball in the first inning with 2 outs and nobody on. That's not him. One of the better control pitchers in baseball. Then in the top of the 2nd, he hit the first guy. He walked the guy on the 4th. Gave up the home run we saw to Greg Vaughn in the 5th, and just continues to struggle with his location.
Carlos Reyes, the right-hander. 3-2 and a bouncer to short. Waiting for Jackson. The ball's in front of the runner. Bad throw, but Wally Joyner takes the long hop. That's how Damian Jackson can get 25 errors. And he's not really the everyday guy, splitting time with Chris Gomez this year.
Well, he got a lot of those errors when Wally Joyner was on the disabled list. Wally Joyner has told all of the infielders, even back to Ken Caminiti. Kemi came over here and won a couple of gold gloves and gave all of the credit to Wally Joyner. Wally said if you're off balance, you got to make a quick throw. Just think down. I can help you. That was a mistake that Andy Ashby made back on the ball that Ron Vallone hit when Ashby threw it away. Wally can't jump like he once could, but he can still pick him out of the dirt.
Well, Ron Vallone can hack here, although Wally Joyner was creeping in at first. Just a little bit behind even with the bag at third is Nevin. Ron Vallone has never had a major league RBI. Wally will creep up a little bit. He's backed up some with 1 strike now. Vera's trying to hold Boone close. And Vallone looks at a tailing fastball that catches the outside corner. Aaron Boone sitting out there. Reds can bring him home. They'll have a 4-run lead here in the middle of the game. Breaking ball, and Vallone pops it up short center. Out goes Jackson. Rivera calls him off, as he should. 2 down. ESPN Sunday Night Football, 8:15 Eastern. The New York Giants travel New England to take on Drew Bledsoe and the Patriots. And then at 9 on ABC's Monday Night Football, Steve Young running again. There's Jake Plummer. The 49ers and the Cardinals battle in the desert. ESPN Sunday Night and ABC Monday Night Football coming your way. Top of the order now. Mike Cameron will step in for the Reds. 1 for 3 with a base hit.
Pretty good move right there on the part of the rookie catcher for the Padres, going out to Andy Ashby just to change the signs. Aaron Boone's been at second base for a while. He's seen a lot of the numbers put down. And just in case he's paying attention to what's going on, he may have picked up the sequence that they used with a man on second. The youngster goes out there, so let's just change him. Let's don't take a chance that he knows what's happening and he could relay what's coming to the hitter. See the sequence right there? You haven't been watching him for a while. It's impossible to pick up what's going to happen with a man on second.
1-0 pitch is a fastball tight. 2-0. Well, this is the last home game of the year for the Padres. We've seen some ex-Padres hanging around the ballpark tonight. Saw a guy with a big long handlebar mustache hanging around down by the cage. Raleigh Fingers earlier. We've got a 3,000 hit man in the house. Swing and a miss on a pitch low and away. 2-1.
I'm wondering why I didn't pick up a couple of baseballs in the clubhouse, man. There's some autographs floating around here that I wished I had. Dave Winfield giving us the pleasure of stopping by to say hello.
3,110 hits. Still wearing that brown and yellow from those old Padre days. That didn't look good on too many guys, but on him it looked pretty good.
That's right. And even if you thought it didn't, you didn't dare say so.
2 balls, 1 strike. And a 2-2 count now as Andy Ashby ran a pretty good fastball to the outside corner.
Ashby able to get this out right here. It'll run his total for the 3rd year in a row, inning total that would be, to over 200. Quite an accomplishment for a guy that really struggled the first 5 or 6 years of his career.
Phillies, Rockies, now the Padres since '93. Ashby's best season was last year when he won 17 ball games.
Actually came to San Diego from Colorado as a player to be named later. Hard to believe for a guy that at the end of next year will be a free agent and is going to demand a lot of money.
You know, 4 of his last 5 years he's had ERAs of under 3.5. That's almost a miracle by today's standards. There's a ball well hit to left. It backs up Owens, and the Reds are gone in the 6th. They waste the leadoff single and steal by Aaron Boone. They've left 6, but the Reds lead 4-1 after 5.5.
ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball is brought to you by 10-10-3-2-1. Now just 8 cents a minute for calls over 10 minutes. And by Lowe's Home Improvement Warehouse. When it comes to home improvement, Lowe's knows.
I don't know how they put up with it here in the Valley. 73 degrees at game time tonight on the 22nd of September. Ruben Rivera leads off for the Padres, bottom of the 6th inning. Bob Carpenter, Rick Sutcliffe, and we're joined by the Hall of Famer Dave Winfield.
That's a few years off, perhaps.
Well, you're going to be there.
Well,
good to see you. Good to see you, Dave.
Good to see you, Bob and Rick.
You know that they've made that key already, Mr. Winfield.
Well, no, that'd be great. But we'll see. We'll see. But it's been a great night so far. It really is.
It's got to be fun for you to come back here.
It is. I came with some business associates, and you know, the Padres have always been open arms and very nice, and to go on the field, hang out with the guys, it's always good to see people.
No balls and 2 strikes. Well, a ball club that has some high hopes as it looks ahead to the future. New ballpark. One of the best closers in baseball in Trevor Hoffman, a bouncer to Valone, and he retires Ruben Rivera. Dave, what's your best memory of your time here in San Diego?
Well, you know, your best time, one of the best times is just becoming a professional baseball player. Having the opportunity to put the uniform on, having them create a baseball card. How about that? You remember? And, you know, my first hit, infield hit off the third baseman's glove, dived into first base. That's Winfield's first hit, and hustled ever since.
Well, you played the game hard, and you had the speed to go with the power, too.
Well, you learn to put it all together, but it doesn't come overnight. Coming out of college as a pitcher, then all of a sudden playing the outfield, that was transition. But I did it without any minor league experience.
How'd you guys play enough games up there in Minnesota in college to be ready for professional baseball?
You know, let's take the other side of the coin. I didn't get burned out by playing too much baseball. You know, some kids do. You know, the weather is great and you play all year round. We didn't have a chance to do that, so we'd ski, skate, basketball, anything else, and then play baseball.
Dave, I guess it's safe to say no regrets that you didn't pursue your NBA career?
Not at all.
You know you could have.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had the opportunity, and know I could have done it, but baseball was great. And how many basketball players play 20-plus years and be healthy when they get out?
With all of the trouble Bruce Bochy has had this year with offense, you saw him looking at you pretty hard tonight, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. He's looking at the pipes. He figured I could still swing, you know, but I'll leave it to the young bloods nowadays.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Yeah, with all the news about the DH, maybe Bruce will call Bud Selig tomorrow. Try to get that reinstated for the National League next year and get Winfield back in here.
Dave, I was standing there with you. That had to make you feel good. Young Sean Casey, first baseman of Cincinnati Reds, having a great year. Just wide-eyed as he could possibly be coming up to shake your hand. That's got to make you feel good.
Right. That guy like that, and I've seen him play, too, from television. He's a big guy, but he swings a good bat. And I told him he's having a good year, keep his head in the game. He's done great. You know, another kid, Gary Matthews' young son. I mean, as many years I played with Gary Matthews, you know, you did.
Sarge Jr.
Yeah, in Chicago. And now you see his son come up with those big hands, tall, lean. I think he's a good prospect.
You know what? His son can hit, as the Sarge could, but unlike the Sarge, his son's a pretty good defensive player, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, Sarge, he had his own style. You know, he'd hit that ball and run to first base side.
Flip that helmet off.
Oh,
boy.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep, there's young Sarge right there.
There's the walk to Ben Davis, his second pass of the night on a 3-2 pitch. Padres need some base runners. That's the first one they've had since Rivera walked back in the third. And this is a ball club, as we've mentioned, that does not produce runs that well. They're in the bottom 3 in the league in that department, bottom 2 in the league in home runs.
Well, you can imagine, I mean, look, that the people that left this year, I mean, Greg Vaughn is not there. Wally Joyner has struggled.
Finley.
Oh, yeah. So you put them all together, they've lost probably 150 RBIs.
Damian Jackson, that's a fair ball. Right over the bag, down into the bullpen. That ball can rattle around for a long time down there, and the Padres have a run. It's a 4-2 game.
Dave, you've seen teams in baseball that went to rebuilding, that tried to get younger 1 year, 2 years too late. San Diego knew last year, after going to the World Series, that team was not going to get any better. Some of those guys left via trade, some of them through free agency. Kevin Brown, not everybody's got $105 million just laying around to sign him. But this team has added some young players. They've got a lot of enthusiasm. Damian Jackson right there. A nice double down the line and tremendous speed.
Ben Davis, too, the young man skirting around the bases right now. He's a catcher with a lot of promise. And they'll be looking for him to do great things in the future. But as you say, many of these clubs, they wait a year too late. Some do it a year too early. I mean, the Marlins dismantled immediately. The Padres were on the brink after so many years, and so it had to be heartbreaking to so many of the fans to make that adjustment, but they wanted to replace the older parts.
And Kevin Towers has a new assistant. Ted Simmons has just signed a 3-year contract to become the Padres Vice President of Player Development and Scouting. Outstanding baseball guy, a great player, 8-time All-Star, and a former Pittsburgh GM. A heart attack stalled Ted Simmons' career 6 years ago, but he's back strong now, and he will help this organization after working for Cleveland in recent years. And we all know how good their scouting has been in this decade. Wiki Gonzalez will bat for Andy Ashby right here. Carlos Reyes has been up for a while. He'll take over. Top of the 7th. What will the score be? Andy Ashby hoping to get off the hook here. Tying run at the plate. Fastball rides high, 2-0.
That's 98 pitches on the night for Ron Vallone. A lot of those coming back in the first inning. When he walked Phil Nevin, he got himself in a lot of trouble. He walked Ben Davis to start the bottom of the second, excuse me. Because of that, that pitch total catching up with him, and his night might be about over.
2-0. Rookie catcher. And the throw to second, another one into center field. The second time Vallone's done it, and this ball goes into the dugout. A 4-3 game on 2 throwing errors.
You know what? Mike Cameron's going to be charged with an error right here, but to me, both of those errors should go to the pitcher, Ron Vallone. He threw the ball into center field and then, frustrated at himself, he just stood there on the mound. Your center fielder, Dave, as you well know, he's hustling, comes up with the ball, does everything he can do, and the pitcher forgets to back up the throw, and because of it, the center fielder charged with an error that he should not have been charged with.
I got a lot of errors in my first couple of years like that. Hustling, trying to make the play, hard throw into the base, but as you say, the pitcher should have been there.
Base hit by Wiki Gonzalez, and the tying runs on here in the 6th inning, and still only 1 out. It's coming apart for Vallone. Don Gullett on his way to the mound, and that'll be it for Ron Vallone. 5 1/3. Tying run on base. A sudden dramatic turnaround, and Cincinnati's lead in big-time jeopardy now. Well, the bottom of the 6th inning, when the Reds are looking like anything but a contending ball club, Scott Sullivan and some of their other relief guys, Rick Sutcliffe, have given a new meaning to long relief this year.
This guy, over the last 3 years, has averaged over 100 innings per year. One of those guys that just simply saves a pitching staff and particularly a bullpen.
David Newhan takes over as the pinch runner for Wiki Gonzalez. That's the tying run aboard. Sullivan to face Kilby O'Veris.
That's the thing managers love about this time of the year. You've got that big roster to work with. Normally you'd have to leave Gonzalez in there to run. You can't use up your whole bench here in just the bottom of the 6th inning, but everybody's called up people. There's plenty of players. Now you put a little bit of speed there at first base. Sullivan's got to get quicker to home plate. Lots of good things can happen for San Diego.
And a jam job. Little pop-up on the infield. Larkin calls off Boone for the 2nd out. And another look at the play that more than anything sent Ron Vallone to the dugout.
Well, just 2 mental mistakes right here on the part of Vallone. There's really not a play there. The base runner was closer to the bag than the infielder was. And then look at this. That throw should not be charged as an error. Boone could have got in front of the throw. He wanted to stay home as long as he could. But look at the pitcher right there with his hands on his hips. That's just inexcusable right there. That's got to make you cringe.
Oh, textbook what not to do.
Yeah.
Textbook. Got to back it up. Now it's 4-3. It was 4-2.
Why should your outfielders hustle for you if you're not going to hustle for them?
It's a mental lapse you just can't, at this level, you just got to avoid.
Owens takes a fastball in there. Dave, always great to see you. Thanks for coming up and joining us, and all the best with whatever you're up to these days.
It's my pleasure. Good to see you guys, and Cincinnati has a chance for the playoffs still. Perhaps we'll see them.
I bet you still like those pinstripes in the Bronx, though, don't you?
They've got a strong team. Don't overlook Cleveland.
Dave Winfield. So who's your pick to win it all?
No, don't put me on there. You guys are the full-time broadcasters. I got a lot of friends out there.
Yeah, but you are the players who like to call us the so-called experts. You guys really know what's going on.
You can't win in that situation, making a prediction. You know everybody's listening to you tonight.
That's right. I'm going to be in about 4 of these stadiums, so I got to watch it.
Very well said, sir. All the best to you.
My pleasure. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks for stopping by, Mr. Winfield.
Dave Winfield, over 3,100 career hits, a surefire Hall of Famer when his time comes. Here's Eric Owens batting in the spot where Tony Gwynn was before leaving with a sore knee. Don't you think Tony Gwynn would love to be a part of this 2-run rally in the 6th inning? Well, Ron Vallone, as Rick Sutcliffe told you, picked 4 runners off second base this year. In those instances, he had surprise working for him. Trying to force it tonight, he threw 2 balls into center field on plays when he didn't have a chance to throw anybody out.
Well, the first base coach of the San Diego Padres, Davey Lopes, one of the best teachers that I've ever been around as far as base running is concerned. He can teach you how to get a jump at first base, what to look for in a pitcher's move to first, also that to home plate. He told everybody, look, this guy will try to pick you off at second base, shorten up a little bit. San Diego doing that. There was no play at second. Vallone forced the issue. Because of it, we've got us a ball game here.
Sidearm and a foul off to the right. Well, the run will go down as an earned run after the Gonzalez base hit that followed anyway. But those are the kind of mistakes that really mess with the mind of a ball club when they're standing out there during a long half inning. Reds still have the lead at 4-3. Vallone still could win his 9th game of the year. He only had 4 in his career coming into this season. And the 0-2 pitch. Runner going, pitch up and away. Throw top and seam, right on target. Mookie Reese with the tag, and the Padres inning ends in a hurry. They pick up 2. They're right back in it. 4-3 Cincinnati. Well, Andy Ashby, his ball club gets a couple. He's not off the hook yet. Sticking around to watch this 4-3 ball game. Yeah, pitchers will stick around and watch these things. They've only got a start or 2 left. And here's the right-hander, Carlos Reyes, who was with Oakland for 4 years, went from the Padres to the Red Sox last year in the Jim Leyritz deal. Now back to the Padres as they signed him as a minor league free agent back in February. Barry Larkin, the Cincinnati leadoff man, in the top of the 7th.
Jim Leyritz was just kind of looked upon as being an insurance policy, a right-handed bat off the bench when that deal was made last June 21st by general manager Kevin Towers. But all of a sudden, Leyritz flourished not only towards the end of the year, but as usual for Jim Leyritz, Mr. October in the playoffs for San Diego. Did a tremendous job catching Sterling Hitchcock. Going to find himself in the playoffs again this year with the New York Yankees.
It's in there, 2-1. Barry Larkin 0 for 3 tonight, so his batting average has dipped under the 300 mark where he started this evening. Barry Larkin, a 300 career batter. Long litany of success. First-round draft choice in '95 out of Michigan. A 9-time All-Star. 8 times he's led his position in hitting. That's the Silver Slugger Award. The MVP in '95. He's on the list of the all-time Reds. He'll pass Johnny Bench. I don't know if he'll be able to catch Pete Rose, though. Barry will have to play a long, long time to catch Charlie Hustle. First major league shortstop to be a 30-30 guy. Pete Rose played a little shortstop in his day. That's the Pete Rose we remember with the crew cut. Diving headfirst around the bases. Damian Jackson on target, and Barry Larkin is 0 for 4.
Barry Larkin had to come out of the game Monday night because he hyperextended his left elbow. That elbow has been swollen throughout his series, but the toughness, and he knows the importance that he is to this ball club, of his mentality, keeps him in the lineup. Even though he didn't hit the ball hard, one thing Barry Larkin always does is hustle. Hustle down the line right there. If Jackson were to bobble it, he would have found himself on base.
Sean Casey, a walk, a double, a run scored. 1 for 2 tonight. In the hitting race, nobody's going to catch Larry Walker, who's unconscious at 379. Bobby Abreu with the Phillies was next at 340 going into the night. Then Luis Gonzalez of the D-backs at 335, and Casey right behind. Who will Larry Walker's manager be next year? 1 ball, 1 strike. Colorado Rockies in last place in the West. All that offense driving Jim Leland to distraction this year. And a changeup fades outside. 2 balls and a strike.
Well, don't look at me. I'm not going to be that manager. I'm thrilled to be right where I'm at.
You haven't lost a game all year.
There are a lot of broadcasters that names get thrown around. Ray Knight talking about him coming back as a manager.
Well, Larry Dierker can do it.
I hear talk about this may be the last year for Larry Dierker. I certainly hope not. What a great job he's done down there.
Here's Greg Vaughn on deck behind Casey. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And a fly ball to center. He reached out and stroked one about 390 feet, but Rivera's there for the 2nd out. Sean Casey, one of the great young players in this ball club. Here's the veteran Greg Vaughn on some of that young talent.
We have some great athletes over here. And one thing that makes these guys special, especially these young ones, you know, Mike Cameron, Aaron Boone, Sean Casey, you know, Scott Williamson. We don't have the ego problems, you know, being in the game, and, you know, guys get a lot of money to sign now, and they think they're doing the game a favor. And I say, look here, this game is here before you, and it's going to be here after you. So treat the game with respect.
I'll tell you what, some of the things we've heard from Greg Vaughn tonight ought to be etched in stone. Let's get them today, not tomorrow. And especially those last quotes. Something a lot of young guys who've had success in the millions of dollars early in their careers just don't understand anymore. As long as Greg Vaughn's around, Sean Casey will understand. And the big fella's got a double and a 2-run homer tonight.
I think one of the biggest things young players don't understand is the importance of playing every day. You look at gamers this time of year, guys that managers can, once opening day starts to begin the season, write their name in ink. You don't have to pencil them in from day to day. You think about the Houston Astros, Bagwell and Biggio.
You are reading my mind.
They're there. They're there every day. Why do you think that team has had a winning record the last 7 years? Only 3 teams in baseball have done that. The Atlanta Braves, you know their pitching staff, and those guys, how they go to the post. And, of course, the New York Yankees.
2 balls and a strike to Vaughn. Biggio and Bagwell have played more than 1,200 games together in the major leagues now. Greg Vaughn, a Brewer, then a Padre, now a Red. You know, it's interesting. He's only a .243 career hitter. He's hitting .243 with his 2 for 3 tonight, so he's right on what he normally does, but he hits for great power and drives in a lot of runs, and he's on base for the 3rd time tonight. ABC Saturday football. Number 4 Michigan and number 17 Wisconsin headline our regional coverage at 3:30 Eastern. Big Ten and Southern Miss against A&M. They came up big last week, and they are a powerful squad in the Big 12. Number 1 Florida State and the Tar Heels in the ACC, or Colorado and Washington as the Big 12 plays the Pac-10. Saturday at 3:30 Eastern on ABC Sports. Just about got the whole country covered for you on Saturday. Here's Dimitri Young. Well, Dimitri 0 for 2 with a hit by pitch and a run scored tonight. The Big Nasty, they call him, huh? Mm-hmm. He swings the bat with bad intentions.
That's what Greg Vaughn said.
What Greg Vaughn said.
Wanting to hurt somebody.
Now there's Vaughn, and there's Dimitri Young, 90 feet behind him. He could be hurt if he's not alert down there at first base.
I remember Gary Matthews always talking on the bench, talking about hitting. If he throws it away, I'm going to spank it. He throws it on the inside part of the plate, I'm going to yank it. He throws it down the middle, you got it. I'm going to crank it. Sarge, always having fun. He's having fun up there in Toronto, too, as their hitting instructor.
Yeah, they've got some good young players up there.
Carlos Delgado, Sean Green. I saw him hit, well, we saw him hit one out to center field at Safeco Field. One of our ESPN games. That part of the ballpark had not been reached beyond until he got there.
Yeah, he had a couple in that game, did he?
Great ball game.
2 balls and a strike on the throw to first. Greg Vaughn, not a running threat, you would think, but he picks his spots very well. He has stolen 15 in 17 attempts this year. 2-1 to Dimitri Young. And he didn't identify the breaking ball that was going to be way inside by the time he swung.
The one guy that did identify it, though, that was Ben Davis, letting this ball get away from him. Look at the position right there. Look at him get in front of it. Look at him slide. You got to duck the bat. You got to keep the ball in front of you. You want to be a big league catcher? Nope. Try to learn to throw a fastball first. If you can't pitch, then you might consider it.
Well, they say it's the quickest way to the big leagues.
The hardest way.
2-2, and Young strikes out. That's it for the Reds in the top of the 7th. A big crowd in San Diego will stand up and stretch, and their team's back in the ballgame, down just 4-3.
Congratulations.
Now the playoff pursuit continues here on ESPN. Wednesday Night Baseball, 22nd of September. We saw Atlanta score a bunch late to overtake the Mets 5-2 earlier tonight. And here in San Diego, the Reds a precarious lead going into the bottom of the 7th. Again, the importance of this game. A Cincinnati win keeps the Houston magic number at 7. Gets the Reds to within 2.5 of the Astros, and you can see they'd only be 2 out on the loss side. They would also be 2.5 back of the Mets in the wild card race.
There's a lot of sleepless nights for a lot of people with all of this that's going on.
There's a hard drag bunt by Owens, but right at bulky range. You can bunt too hard, and that was the case there.
I think it was really a pretty good idea on the part of Eric Owens. The bunt was a little bit hard, but Scott Sullivan is so tough on right-handed hitters because of the angle that he delivers the baseball from. Good location with his fastball, a big sweeping slider that breaks away from a right-handed hitter. He's always been tough on right-handed hitters.
Reggie Sanders next. Well, if you missed it earlier from Bill Pito, you saw our graphic. Cal Ripken out for the year. That problem's just too much. And the Orioles are developing a habit of getting hot when it's way too late. That win tonight, their 13th in a row. Where was that in June and July? A lot of ball clubs like to boast of their late season success, but it's a whole different deal when the pressure's off.
You know what? It's still pretty amazing to me, though. That ball club now is just 2 games under 500.
Well, if this was the NHL or the NBA, they'd be in the playoff hunt. Thankfully, baseball only lets 1 wild card in other than the 3 divisional leaders. Still makes the regular season mean just about everything. This ball is hit hard by Sanders. A 3-for-4 night for Reggie. He's going to be flirting with 300 soon. He's at first with 1 out here in the bottom of the 7th.
Take a look at the swing right there. Look at him trying to stay relaxed. Look at the head, following the baseball right to the big part of the bat.
So, Rick, maybe a year or 2 ago, he's up there trying to pull that pitch, huh?
Absolutely. Pulling off of it, not able to do anything with it. Now that base hit could be a possible double or triple because of the speed of Sanders.
Here's Nevin. That was a beautiful swing. Breaking ball jams Nevin. A bouncer foul outside third. The ball had a little English on it. Hit that dirt in foul territory and almost came back toward the bag.
Almost the same kind of base hit that Phil Nevin got back in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Got on top of one. You know he's going to try to pull the ball right here. He wants to hit it out of the park. He's the go-ahead run. And when a manager puts your name in that cleanup position, he doesn't want you trying to hit a ground ball right now between the 1st and 2nd baseman. He puts you in there to take a big swing, and Phil Nevin has done that since Bruce Bochy put him in that position.
No balls, 1 strike. Tying run at first base. It's twice now Sullivan has worked inside on Nevin.
Back in spring training when Phil Nevin was traded to the San Diego Padres, Tony Gwynn went to Rod Carew, the hitting instructor of the Anaheim Angels, where Nevin was, and said, look, what does he have to do to be successful? Rod Carew said he's got to stay on the baseball. He's got to hit the ball to all fields. And Tony Gwynn has just simply constantly reminded Phil Nevin of that all year long.
Up and in. He went fishing. Not a real good at bat for Nevin as Sullivan kept the ball in on him, and he just couldn't lay off any of them. That's 2 down here in the 7th.
First baseman, number 22.
3 pretty good hacks right there. 2 of them at pretty good pitches to hit. The last one at a pitcher's pitch right there.
Here's Wally Joyner. So Nevin 1 for 3 on the night. Upset at striking out for the 2nd consecutive time. Wally Joyner has a base hit in 3 trips. Good for his 39th run batted in. Wally, one of those guys who hit for a lot of power the first couple of years he was in the big leagues. 87, 88. That's when we first started hearing talk about the ball being livelier. His power output has steadily gone down over the years. Still a solid line drive hitter. Johnny, the thing I remember most about the '87 season, Rick, was Jack Howell of the Angels in a nationally televised game breaking his bat and hitting a home run at Yankee Stadium. The other Reyes, Cincinnati's left-hander Dennis Reyes, warming up. Wally Joyner, a home run over 20 at-bats his first couple of years. That has doubled now in his dozen seasons since.
Injuries to both of Wally's shoulders, injuries to his knees have just changed his swing.
Wally Joyner, a .292 career batter. 5 home runs short of 200. The way he started, we thought he might get that in about 5 or 6 years.
Wally World was alive and well back in Anaheim then. Back then called the California Angels, of course.
3 balls and a strike. Reggie Sanders still at first. Short lead. No sign of running yet. He can walk to second base now. First walk issued by Scott Sullivan. There's another right-hander coming up in Ruben Rivera. They had the left-hander Dennis Reyes warming up, maybe with Ben Davis in mind. I'll tell you, Phil Nevin, it's a good thing that dugout's padded right now. He might have hurt himself by now. He is really mad at himself.
That was a pretty good snap down there in the dugout, wasn't it? Through his helmet, through his bat, banging on things.
Well, I like his spirit. I hope he doesn't hurt himself down there. And here's Rivera 0 for 2 with a walk. A base hit for the Padres, huge right here. Not to mention for the Houston Astros. That's the thing about September. So many different ball clubs are watching what's going on here. You know the Mets are interested in this ball game because of Cincinnati's pursuit.
Well, this is the time of the year when those clubs that are in contention sit down, they gather together, and they all vote on playoff shares. Which players should get what? They vote clubhouse kids in. Ruben Rivera hits a 3-run homer right here.
He might get a share, huh?
He might get a little bit from the Mets and from the Astros.
That's Houston's remaining schedule. They finish at home with their last 5. It's a good one to the outer half. No balls, 2 strikes. The Reds play 2 at the Dome next Tuesday and Wednesday. That'll be something. The New York Mets, another one with the Braves tomorrow, and Atlanta owns them. But look at those 3 next week at Shea against Atlanta. Phillies and Pirates around them. 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. 2 Ks in the inning. 2 stranded by the Padres. They've left 9 runners on the bases tonight. On to the 8th inning. Cincinnati still holding on.
ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball is brought to you by Best Buy. Now that's a great idea.
Well, a beautiful baseball night in Mission Valley, San Diego, California. Top of the 8th inning, and the Reds in a crucial game for them here in late September. On top, 4-3 into the top of the 8th inning. Eddie Taubensee, Aaron Boone, Pokey Reese. Well, some young Padre fans saying goodbye to their ball club. This is the Padres' final home game. And despite the disappointment of a post-World Series year in which they will finish 3rd, maybe 4th, they've still come out in good numbers. Great fans here, over 2.5 million for the Padres this year.
And that's the first time in Padre history they've done that in back-to-back years. And an appreciation to the fans after the ball game tonight. San Diego has a promotion called Take the Shirt Off Your Back. Every player is going to take their uniform off and hand it to a lucky fan and autograph it.
And I heard that a little earlier tonight, the bidding downstairs was getting brisk for Rick Sutcliffe's tie at the end of this telecast.
Yeah, right.
That could raise thousands for charity.
How about coming to a ball game, picking up an upper deck ticket, and walking home with a Tony Gwynn jersey?
Not bad.
Huh? Trevor
Hoffman will sign it too, huh?
Dead burn right.
Breaking ball is in there. 0-2 to Eddie Taubensee. That base runner he threw out. David Newhan, back in the 6th inning, was Eddie Taubensee's 13th base runner, nabbed in 98 attempts this year. Obviously, Eddie has not been able to throw out many, but that also indicates to you he's not had a whole lot of help from his pitching staff. This guy's a solid player. Swing and a miss on a changeup, and Eddie Taubensee is gone. 2 consecutive Ks for the right-hander Carlos Reyes.
Well, the difference in this ball game right now is one swing of the bat from the left fielder of the Cincinnati Reds, Greg Vaughn. Taubensee trying to add to that lead a little bit. A big swing on his part, but no contact.
Bruce Bochy's going to come out and make a double switch here. A young Sargent is going to center field. That's Rivera running off. Dan Miceli, the veteran right-hander, coming in. And there's Gary Matthews Jr. We'll set it for you when we come back. Right-hander Dan Miceli for the Padres will take on Aaron Boone on a double switch. Pitcher now batting in the number 6 hole for the Padres.
You may wonder why you would change a right-handed pitcher for another right-hander. Reyes has a lot of off-speed stuff, much more effective against left-handed hitters as he was with Taubensee. Now with a couple of right-handers coming up. Miceli, a hard-throwing right-hander, got a good hard slider, and basically a closer for San Diego. The only difference is he's a closer for the 8th inning. Trevor Hoffman with the lead closes the 9th.
Gary Matthews Jr., by the way, batting 9th now on the double switch. That'll put him up 3rd in the bottom of this inning. Aaron Boone with a sacrifice, a single and a stolen base tonight. Really coming of age this year is Aaron Boone. He was part of that home run surge. He had 4 home runs in 9 ball games recently for the Reds. 2 of those were game winners. Career highs in home runs and RBIs. And a high fly ball to right field. Reggie Sanders under it. Adds 2 outs here in the top of the 8th inning. All night long we've been talking about Greg Vaughn and his story. Another element to that, he'll be a free agent. Where would he like to play next year?
I wish they had a team in Sacramento. That would be my preference, you know what I mean? But they don't. So, I mean, wherever I feel the best opportunity is where we can go in and the team is going to win. You know, once you start winning, you don't want to go back to the other side of the fence. You know, it's fun. It's real fun, and I would love to be out west because on days off I can fly home.
Are you listening, San Francisco Giants?
Once you start winning, you don't want to go back to the other side of the fence. You got to like that.
Vaughn fouls one straight back. Pardon me, Pokey Reese, 1 ball, 1 strike. Now, if the Oakland A's re-sign Kevin Appier, and they say they will, they probably don't have Greg Vaughn type money left. That ownership situation still up in the air. A dreadful ballpark situation in Oakland needs to be addressed. Dreadful in terms of where they're playing right now because it's been turned into a gigantic concrete football park. Greg Vaughn's a guy who can put some fans in the seats. He's one of those guys you'll pay to come and see play. 2 balls and a strike, and now Pokey takes a big rip. And a guy who's played for both San Diego and Cincinnati now, Mark Sweeney. He was on that World Series team last year. Had a couple of pinch hits against the Yankees. Spent a lot of time this year at AAA. He's one of those guys in this league who can play for you in the outfield or first base and get a pinch hit for you late in the ball game.
That just tells you how crowded the outfield situation has been for Cincinnati all year. Mark Sweeney in the minor leagues.
Yeah, he's too good for that.
Too good a guy, too.
Might be the best clubhouse guy I've ever seen at the big league level in terms of getting along with everybody, keeping it cohesive in there, and keeping guys loose.
He doesn't care who you are, does he? He will rattle your cage once in a while.
Well, I remember his second day in the big leagues with St. Louis. He was all over Ozzie Smith, and Ozzie loved it. 2-2 pitch, and another hack. Hokie not being cheated in this AB, and he hangs tough at 2-2. But you've got to have some guys who are going to make some things happen in that clubhouse. It's a long season. Just like being at the office, Rick, or in the factory, there's always going to be people who don't like each other. Got to have some guys in there who can keep things light. On a fastball inside, a ground ball down to Nevin. The Reds go in order against two pitchers by the Padres, Reyes and Miceli. San Diego bottom of the order in the 8th. Davis, Jackson, and Gary Matthews Jr. Yeah, every game a hero, every pitch crucial. We get down to situations in October where entire seasons hang in the balance on one pitch. Danny Graves has been outstanding for the Reds this year. He's in a little bit early here in the 8th. Or, Rick, is there anything such as too early for a Cincinnati reliever?
Not when you're in their situation. You got a one-run lead. You got a guy in the bullpen that has 24 saves this year. Take a chance on getting 2 innings out of him. This game is just too important to let it get away from Cincinnati.
Yeah, this is one of those nights when it's totally in the Reds' hands. Houston has lost its game at Pittsburgh. Jason LaRue is in to catch. That's trouble. If it's fair, and it's just foul called by Hunter Wendelstedt. Playing way off the line, there's no way Aaron Boone could get there.
You know, it's amazing how a ballpark this big and a ball game can be determined by a length this small. Look at this ball. A high chopper down the line. It's good for 2 or 3 down if it's fair. Boone was playing Ben Davis to pull, could not get to it.
And you know Vaughn's way off the line in left. Oh, look at that fastball to the outside corner, 0-2. Ben Davis 0 for 1 with a pair of walks. Well, Boone's a good 25 feet off the line at third, and Vaughn's probably 100 feet off the line in left. Backdoor breaking ball stays outside. Again, if Cincinnati can win it, they're only 2.5 back of Houston, 2.5 back of the Mets in the wild card race. There are some nights you need a lot of help from others. Well, the Reds have gotten it from the Pirates, and Todd Ritchie tonight beating Jose Lima, who's now lost his last 2 starts for Houston. Broken bat, 1 hopper. Tricky play for Larkin on the backhand. 1 out. We're getting ready to wrap up our doubleheader on ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball. Stuart Scott, Rich Eisen with SportsCenter next. The Red Sox continue to chase the Yankees, but they gave up a lot of runs tonight. From Brookline, a Ryder Cup preview and a conversation with Sean Elliott after major surgery and his brother helping him out. He is on the mend. It's all coming up next on SportsCenter. Boy, Sean Elliott's one of those guys you root for, too. Here's Damian Jackson, the San Diego shortstop. An RBI double, scored on the double error by the Reds 2 innings ago when Vallone threw one to center field on a pickoff attempt, and then didn't back up on Cameron's throw, which got by Boone at third and went all the way into the dugout. Had an interesting couple of nights over at third base. Reggie Sanders played last night, clearing the bases with a triple. That relay got away, and he came around to score. 1 ball, 1 strike. A smattering of applause for a rally here. Padre fans enjoying their last night of the season here in their ballpark, Qualcomm Stadium. Padres a good team at home this year. At worst, they'll be 46-35. Big curveball in the strikeout. Padres are down to their final 4 outs now.
Pretty much a typical night for Damian Jackson when he gets on base. Unbelievable the percentage that he's able to score. He was only on base once tonight. He scored that time.
Stepping in, Gary Matthews Jr. now. 16 ball games, 19 at bats, 4 hits, all singles. How good of a prospect did the Padres consider him, Rick?
Well, they think that he's possibly the best defensive outfielder that they have. He is right there equal with Ruben Rivera.
Bouncer right side, easy for Casey. And a 1-2-3. The Padres have only had 2 hits since the 3rd inning. Cincinnati gets it into the 9th now, still leading 4-3. They've got to have this one.
Bill Pito back in the studio. Kansas City and Seattle. Ken Griffey Jr. with his team down 12-2. 48th of the year. Career number 398. Trying to get to 50 for the 3rd straight season. 12-4. Seattle down 8.
Thank you, Bill Pito. Of course, the Sosa-McGuire matchup, at least for this week, has come to a close. In 3 games at Wrigley, McGuire hit 1. Sammy did not go deep, and Big Mac trails slamming Sammy by 2. There's a guy who could hack pretty well.
Ken Griffey Sr., a little inside story on Ken Griffey Jr.'s success the last 3 days. Sr. sent Jr.'s mom to Seattle. She was scheduled to come down here in San Diego with him. Senior's wife, Alberta. Senior said, hey, the kid's struggling. You know how to fix it. Get up there and take care of things. She flew into Seattle Sunday night. The last 3 nights, Junior's hit homer.
There's a base hit to left field for Jason LaRue, who came in to catch in the bottom of the 8th.
I remember back early in the month of May, Junior was struggling, and on an off day, he called Senior to fly to Cincinnati. He said, I'm bringing the grandkids in. Trey wants to see you, blah, blah, blah. Senior says, I know better than that. He's struggling offensively. He wants me to take a look at it. They went into the cages there in Cincinnati. Senior threw to him, figured out what Junior was doing wrong, and he was off and running from that point. Also hitting in the cages off of Senior that day was Junior's 6-year-old son, Trey. And after Senior threw 4 or 5 pitches, Trey looked at Grandpa and said, Grandpa, you can't throw any harder than that? So it sounds like another Griffey prospect's on the way.
Top of the order, and it's in there to Mike Cameron. Cameron 1 for 4 tonight. Well, there's the 2nd best player ever from Donora, Pennsylvania. Yeah, he knows who the best one is. Stan the Man, who had the National League record for hits with those 3,630 until Mr. Rose came along. Stan Musial started his career in the minor leagues as a pitcher until a tumble in the outfield one day took care of that shoulder. Not a bad hitter in the ensuing years. On a 1-1 pitch, popped up, should be easy. Davis has it. Sacrifice attempt by Cameron foiled. And still at first base with 1 out, Jason LaRue.
You know, there's just some simple little things that have gone on for Cincinnati tonight that would scare me if I was Jack McKeon. You got a pitcher making a couple errors at second base, making a mental error, not backing up. Here you are late in the ball game. You need some insurance, and you're not able to get down that sacrifice bunt.
Barry Larkin 0 for 4. Doesn't make him any less dangerous here in the 9th inning. $100 runs plus for the 2nd time in his career. Barry Larkin, his 13th full major league season. After a brief visit from Ben Davis, Maselli back to work. Padres desperate for him to keep this a 1-run game. Former starter Brett Tomko and career reliever Stan Belinda warming up for Cincinnati for that bottom of the 9th. We'll see if they start the inning with Danny Graves or go right to one of those two. Well, news from all over baseball, NFL football. Everybody's talking about AstroTurf this week. 1 ball, 1 strike. It's all coming up on SportsCenter. Sean Elliott.
I've had a couple of conversations with Reggie Sanders, who got off the AstroTurf there in Cincinnati when he was traded here to San Diego, and how much that has helped him stay healthy playing on the natural grass.
Yeah, think of the beating Eric Davis took over the years at Riverfront Stadium, diving on that outfield. Eric Davis injured his shoulder this year on the real stuff in Arizona, helping Jose Jimenez get a no-hitter one night. Has not been the same since. That's the big hot topic of conversation in the NFL now after Monday night's injury and others to Vinny Testaverde and other key players. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Breaking ball, base hit right center. Heading for third is LaRue. And the Reds have a corner situation with 1 out here in the ninth.
Tony Gwynn started this game playing in right field for San Diego, but he came out because of soreness in the left knee. Had he stayed in the ball game, he might not have been able to get to this line drive in the gap, creating a possibility of Cincinnati scoring a run. Instead, the double play is still in order. Bruce Bochy will make the move for the left-hander in hopes of getting that double play ground ball.
Matt Wisnant into the game here with 1 out and runners at the corners in the top of the ninth. Left-hander Matt Wisnant released by the Royals, and the Padres picked him up as a free agent August 20th.
This will be the 14th appearance for Wisnant for the Padres. Those numbers not real exciting. His numbers since he put on a National League uniform, though, are tremendous. Only 1 run allowed, an ERA of 0.82.
Reds threatening to add to the lead. Jason LaRue had the leadoff single. After Cameron bunted and fouled out, the Larkin base hit moved him to third. Tough situation here. They had to have the left-hander against Sean Casey, who could really come up big for the Reds here. Fastball right down the middle. Padres back looking for a double play ball. Outfield has to respect the power of Casey. Doubtful whether they could throw out LaRue at home on any ball that's not real shallow. Sidearm, inside out swing, a funny looking effort, and that quickly it's 0-2.
This is the first situation tonight that Sean Casey has had runners in scoring position, and the youngster has just dominated those positions all year long, hitting .355. 43 for 121. He's dug himself a pretty deep hole here with an 0-2 count.
Chipper Jones, some more heroics for the Braves tonight. That and more coming up on SportsCenter. 0-2. The Red Sox got hammered by Toronto tonight. Blue Jays were down to their final night of eligibility, basically, in the wild card hunt. They're out of the divisional race, of course. And they lit into the Red Sox tonight. Lots of offense coming your way in that one from Fenway. And finally, a pickoff throw that makes connections. We've seen a few go quite awry here tonight.
Usually a little late in the year for what they call PFPs, pitchers fielding practice, but Cincinnati may have some of that tomorrow.
1-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. It was actually foul tipped, and Davis held on. And a big second out for Wisnant. Greg Vaughn walking in.
Left fielder, Greg Vaughn.
Gilby O'Veras at the top of the order. Remember, Tony Gwynn left after going 0 for 3, so it's Eric Owens. And then Danny Graves to face Reggie Sanders, who's done some big damage the last 2 nights in this series.
Now, Bob, you're going to have to explain this to me. What could Kansas City possibly not have liked about this left-handed pitcher here? He's throwing 93, 94 miles an hour, and he comes in and blows away Sean Casey.
Maybe he couldn't get DHs out. That's not a problem over here.
You know, see, that's why you're so good at which I didn't know that. I never even thought of that.
We'll have to look up his batting average against DHs. And if Mr. Selig has his way, that may be a stat not worried about in the years to come. No balls, 1 strike to Greg Vaughn. What's your feeling on that DH thing that's being talked about now?
I'm all for it. Get rid of it. I think a pitcher needs to take a bat up to home plate. You know, I see a lot of guys in the American leagues get away with knocking people down, throwing at this guy, throwing at that guy. That's all right, unless you got to grab a bat and go up there yourself.
Fastball in there to Vaughn, 1-2. Makes no difference which league Greg Vaughn's in, whether it be Milwaukee of the American League, San Diego, or Cincinnati over here. Having another big night, a 2-run homer, 42 on the year, with 109 runs batted in. Now it comes down to a 1-2 pitch to see if this stays a 1-run game. That's a backdoor breaking ball, and he just got a piece of it. How about that homer again back in the 5th, Rick? It's worth another look.
He likes to extend that ball on the outer half of the plate. Normally a pretty good pitch, except when you're throwing to a guy that's already hit 12 home runs during this month. That's 13 for Greg Vaughn. 14 is the record for Cincinnati by Frank Robinson.
LaRue at third, Larkin at first. Another 1-2 pitch. He bounces it, but it stays close as Davis gets a piece.
Well, the Padres knew that last year Ben Davis was ready to play at the big league level defensively. Always had an uncanny knack with his glove. He's got such good hands that he blocks balls a lot of times in positions that most catchers can't. I mean, instead of getting his body in front of it, he can just use his hands to keep that ball from getting by him.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Up the middle, and it's stabbed by Wisnick. That ball was labeled for center field and an RBI. We go bottom 9. 4-3 Cincinnati, and the top of the order coming up for the would-be spoilers, the Padres. Bottom of the 9th inning. This game has turned very tight. No scoring in the late innings yet. And the Padres down by 1. Top of their order, 2 up. Dimitri Young has been removed from the game in favor of the defensive veteran Michael Tucker. So it's Vaughn, Cameron, and Tucker across the outfield. You know what's amazing about all this, Rick? It's one of the great things about baseball. The Reds right now are 3 games back of Houston. Seems like a lot. You know what that means? Every 2 months, Cincinnati has won 1 game less than the first-place team. Projected out over the whole season, it's almost a microscopic difference in what Houston and Cincinnati have done. And here we are with a week and a half left in the season. It could be 2.5 in a matter of 3 more outs. There's a fan on the field. We'll have a delay. Danny Graves does start the bottom of the 9th for the Reds. And here you are in a situation where everybody's got their concentration going. And the fan's going to be out there eluding the security guys, but only for a little while. The second one got him.
These things never make any sense when fans do things like that, but particularly when you're just 3 outs away from possibly winning somebody's autographed jersey.
Well, he may get an orange shirt for the rest of the night with a lot of numbers on it. Here's what's coming up on SportsCenter. Stuart Scott and Rich Eisen. American League playoff race, and the Red Sox talking about pursuers like Cincinnati. The Red Sox have been doing it all year long with the Yankees. We'll go to Brookline for the Ryder Cup preview. Should be a very fascinating weekend of golf, and a conversation with Sean Elliott making that comeback from the transplant, and it should be fascinating to hear about Sean Elliott on the mend. It's all coming up shortly on SportsCenter. Boy, it takes a lot of nerve to run by Greg Vaughn.
He got by Greg Vaughn only because Vaughn led him by.
Here's Kilvio Veras on an 0-1 count. Low and away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Veras tonight 1 for 4 with a single. A full game in the NL Central hanging in the balance here in San Diego. A drive to left. It'll be the first out. Vaughn is there. And the Reds are 2 outs away from being just 2.5 back of the Reds, or back of the Astros, and 2.5 back of the Mets in the wild card race. The next hope for San Diego is Aragones.
The first half of the year, Eric Owens was the MVP for the San Diego Padres, in Bruce Bochy's opinion. Tony Gwynn was hurt a lot of that time, but when Tony came back, It was Eric Owens that went to the bench. He has not performed very well offensively since then in that part-time role.
Well, Graves, no problem so far, working through his second inning of relief in quest of his 25th save. Good breaking ball. He took a little bit off, and that's what had Owens reaching.
Well, the Cincinnati Reds know a lot about Eric Owens. They had him in their minor league system. He was a AAA All-Star as a second baseman back in '97 for him. But he was not going to play in the big leagues in the middle infielder. At that time, they had Brett Boone and a guy named Barry Larkin in front of him.
After the off-speed breaking ball, the hard slider is away. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Graves throws a strike, and it's a base hit up the middle. Tying run aboard with 1 out here in the bottom of the 9th. And the Padres' hottest hitter stepping in.
Well, it was Reggie Sanders last night that was the difference in the ball game. He came back to haunt his former team. Eric Owens is going to have a little smile on his face, knowing that he's the tying run on base against a team that gave up on him. The go-ahead run now at home plate. Sanders going to try to do it again.
And the thing you've got to remember about the Cincinnati bullpen, they've had about a half dozen walk-off losses this year. Situations like this have to be in the back of their minds. It's in there. Strike 1 to Sanders, who's 3 for 4 with all singles.
I really felt sorry for Scott Williamson last night. His fastball been in the mid-90s to upper 90s all year long. Last night, 4 or 5 times, his velocity was 89 miles an hour. Just a tired arm.
Fastball up and in, and Sanders couldn't lay off. Well, no chance for a Trevor Hoffman save here tonight, but once it gets to extra innings, if the Padres can get it there, that Hold'em situation becomes just as important. Hoffman with 39 saves this year. That's for a ball club with 72 wins. Oh-2. Fastball rides high.
We talked earlier about how close the two managers are here tonight. You might think, well, Bruce Bochy would take it easy on his good buddy Jack McKeon. That's why they're so close. They respect each other for how hard their teams play the game. Bruce Bochy doing everything he can right now to win this ball game.
1-2 pitch. Out to short, could be a double play. Larkin to Reese, 6-4-3. Cincinnati wins it 4-3. And they're only 2.5 games back of Houston in the Central. The Mets in the wild card. Greg Vaughn's homer, a 2-run shot in the 5th inning, the difference in this game. A 3-hour and 11-minute struggle, and the Reds hold on to win it 4-3. Stay tuned for SportsCenter coming up next. For Rick Sutcliffe and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Bob Carpenter. Hope you enjoyed a night of playoff pursuit from San Diego's Qualcomm Stadium.